Chapter 2685. The General Union Struggle 3. It was precisely because of this thought that they agreed with Uncle Long's arrangement. They even appreciated Uncle Long's kindness, because they knew that Uncle Long only wanted to train these elders. Otherwise, if these people were released in a place like the Divine World, they would definitely die a miserable death. After hearing that they had to leave if they didn't do it, some of the elders of the Lan and Lung families, who failed to complain, all wilted like frost eggplants and ran back to work dejectedly. With their strength, they would die if they left this place. Under the pressure of the Lan and Lung family's ancestors, this small storm did not get too big. It even calmed down very quickly. As for those fellows who had once thought highly of themselves, after seeing that the many members of the Phoenix race and the White Tiger race here were also working seriously, they became completely honest, and began to work as they were told. When Uncle Long received the news, he laughed very proudly. Hee, it was a good thing there were people in those two families who understood. Otherwise, his painstaking efforts would have been fed to the dogs. Demon City, which was under construction, was temporarily peaceful. Everyone was working hard for their home. On a certain day, while Lung Ruoxua was away, the master of the Ning family, who had returned to the Ning family to settle some matters, came back in a hurry. As soon as he entered the courtyard, he shouted, "Shue, you brat, come out." Hearing this, Uncle Long and Dongfang Yu walked out of the living room first. They looked at Master Ning with a puzzled face and couldn't help but ask, "Old man Ning, what's wrong? What are you shouting about?" "Shue is in seclusion refining. Don't disturb her." "Why are you still refining? Do you know what that girl did?" The master of the Ning family roared with a dark face. "What did Shue do?" The two of them looked at each other and asked in unison. "That girl, she destroyed the Ascender Alliance's third and fourth alliances on the Divine Continent and captured all the members of the Divine Realm's third and fourth alliances. Now, the Alliance Master is asking me for her." The master of the Ning family said helplessly. The master of the Ascender Alliance was an old friend of his, and the other party knew of his relationship with Shue, so he had come to him directly, wanting him to help mediate. However, the master of the Ascender Alliance had been vague about why Shue was like this, so the master of the Ning family, who thought himself to be smart, knew that there must be something he didn't know. Of course, he did not think that this matter was Shue's fault. That girl is too lazy. She would not take the initiative to find trouble with others, but if someone provoked her, she would definitely be ruthless. It was precisely because he knew of Shue's vengeful character that he felt that this definitely had nothing to do with his own girl. However, that stinky girl actually did not tell him that she had returned to the Divine Realm, and this made him rather angry. It was because of this reason that he had come to settle the score with the little girl. "Do you think we have to give her to you just because you want her? There's no such thing." Dongfang Yu immediately said disapprovingly. His thoughts were similar to Master Ning's. He knew that the Ascender Alliance must have annoyed Shue. Otherwise, Shue wouldn't be like this. However, it was a little strange that Shue didn't tell them about this. It is. What could he do if she didn't give it to him? "Are you going to bite us?" Uncle Long also shouted in an unreasonable manner. "You." The master of the Ning family was rendered speechless by their tone. Why were these two people becoming more and more like bandits? Godfather is here. At this moment, Lung Ruoxua heard the commotion and walked out with a smile. The moment he saw Lung Ruoxua, Master Ning's anger surged and he shouted at the top of his voice, "You brat, why didn't you tell me you were back?" I forgot. Uncle Long and the others can prove that as soon as I returned, I was immediately pulled away by the great elder of the Craftsmen's Guild headquarters to refine artifacts. If you hadn't come, they wouldn't have let me out." Lung Ruoxua explained, feeling wronged. She had brought back a lot of materials for refining weapons and elixirs from Haotian continent. When the weapon fanatics and alchemy fanatics saw her, they couldn't care less about anything else. In addition, some of the materials were so rare that no one had ever seen them before, so they immediately started to study them. As for himself, he naturally couldn't escape the fate of being captured to help with research. "Humph. I knew it," the master of the Ning family said angrily, and even turned his head arrogantly, ignoring Shue. Lung Ruoxua was helpless and could only try her best to coax Master Ning. After much difficulty, she managed to coax Master Ning, but Uncle Long refused to accept it. Uncle Long looked at Lung Ruoxue with a face full of resentment and said, "Schwerer, you have hostages in your hands. Why don't you hand them over to me? It just so happens that we don't have enough manpower." Not enough manpower? Lung Ruoxue was speechless. She hadn't forgotten that Uncle Dragon had told her that Demon City would be completed in a month. This clearly meant that they had enough manpower. "Uncle Long, they're from the Ascender Alliance. Do you feel at ease letting them help build the land of demons?" Lung Ruoxue blinked her eyes and asked calmly, "Thanks, I really can't be at ease." After thinking for a while, Uncle Long said worriedly, "Humans and beasts were different. Most beasts were very honest and kept their promises, but humans? It was hard to say. Of course, there were also good ones among the humans, but not the ones from the Ascender Alliance." In Uncle Long's heart, he didn't have a good impression of the Ascender Alliance. "That's why I didn't tell you," Lung Ruoxue said matter-of-factly. "It's fine if you didn't tell us, but now the Ascender Alliance is coming to find you. What are you going to do?" Uncle Long could not help but ask. "I don't know. It depends on what they want to do," Lung Ruoxue said irresponsibly. Then she took the initiative to tell the three of them about how she had formed an enmity with the Ascender Alliance. After hearing this, Master Ning was the first to get angry. "I knew that old man wasn't being honest. He didn't tell me the truth. Well, humans are so cunning. How can you be so insincere when you ask for help?" Uncle Long was also very dissatisfied. "I think we'd better wait for the Ascender Alliance to come to us. Anyway, we have to see what they think. Whether it's a war or a negotiation, we'll accompany them all." Dongfeng Yu said after some thought. "Yes." Uncle Long and Master Ning both nodded in agreement. Lung Ruoxue had no objections to their decision. Just like that, Lung Ruoxue and the rest did not take this matter to heart at all. After Master Ning arrived, she even took some time to accompany him, so that her godfather would not complain again. They were calm and peaceful, but the Ascender Alliance's general alliance was not. Ever since the people from the Third and Fourth Alliances had fallen into Lung Ruoxue's hands, a few important figures from the general alliance had almost gone crazy. Even though they didn't have much contact with Lung Ruoxue, they knew more about her than anyone else. They also knew that Lung Ruoxue was difficult to deal with. Hence, they had been in a frenzy recently, especially the Alliance Master, who was so worried that his hair had turned white. At this very moment, in the Ascender General Alliance's conference room, the few people present were all influential figures in the Ascender Alliance. Even in the Divine Realm, they had a considerable status. However, at this moment, they felt extremely conflicted because of the same person. "Chief, didn't you contact Master Ning? Why hasn't there been any news from Master Ning yet?" The conference room, which had been silent for a long time, became lively again because of this sentence. As soon as the man finished speaking, everyone's eyes turned to the middle-aged man sitting at the head of the table. This middle-aged man was dressed in black and his aura was well hidden. However, his tall figure made it difficult for him to hide his superior aura, even when he was sitting on the chair. His handsome features were extremely serious at the moment, and his tightly furrowed brows showed that he was not in a good mood. He was depressed, and not just depressed. Especially after he heard this question, his face turned even darker. Master Ning hadn't sent him any news for a long time, so he already knew that the matter wouldn't be so easy to solve. Unfortunately, some fools didn't understand this. "There's no news from Master Ning. I guess there's no conclusion yet." At this moment, the young man closest to the Alliance Master said indifferently, "Vice President, you're wrong. Isn't Lung Ruoxue Master Ning's goddaughter? Does she dare to disobey her own godfather's words?" The person who spoke raised his question again. "Fifth Elder, you also said that he's her godfather. Why should she listen?" The young man raised his eyebrows and asked with a faint smile, "Without Master Ning, would Lung Ruoxue have her current status in the divinity? Our Alliance Master has been kind to Master Ning, and we're asking him for a favor this time. Shouldn't Master Ning repay this favor?" The Fifth Elder said matter-of-factly. Upon hearing this, the Alliance Master sitting at the head of the table frowned even more. What did he mean by he was kind to Master Ning? If these words were to spread, Old Man Ning would probably be completely angry with him. Master Ning and I only have some history, it can't be considered a favor. As for Lung Ruoxue, the fact that she's where she is today really doesn't have much to do with Master Ning. Finally, the Alliance Master spoke. How is this possible? That girl is just a woman, and she has just ascended not long ago. How could she have achieved such great success in such a short time? This is clearly the work of Master Ning. The fifth elder said stubbornly. Fifth elder, don't forget that Lung Ruoxue is Master Ye's disciple. With the identity of Master Ye's disciple, wouldn't it be a piece of cake for Lung Ruoxue to occupy a piece of land in the divinity? The young man, who was the vice president that the fifth elder had mentioned, reminded him. But Master Yu has already passed away for many years. The fifth elder still wanted to argue, but before he could finish, the Alliance Master interrupted him. He's still Master Yu, the Alliance Master said seriously, and gave the fifth elder a warning look. In the divine realm, while Master Yu was a taboo, it was also best not to rashly discuss matters regarding Master Yu. After all, there were many fans of Master Yu who were hidden in the dark and not known by others. If they were to find out that someone was questioning Master Ye's authority, they would definitely suffer a storm of revenge. He absolutely did not want the Ascender Alliance he had founded to become the target of the other party's revenge. No one could bear the consequences. Chapter 2686. What happened to us? 1. After receiving the Alliance Master's warning, the fifth elder immediately became more obedient. In reality, he was extremely depressed as well. However, he was not depressed because the third Alliance Master and the others had fallen into Lung Ruoxue's hands. He was depressed because the General Alliance did not mobilize a large force to seek Lung Ruoxue out for revenge. He couldn't understand why the Alliance Master was so afraid of a little girl. In his opinion, a little girl was not easy to deal with. However, the Alliance Master and the Vice Alliance Master did not want to fall out with Lung Ruoxue. This fact made him rather worried. He also had a stomach full of complaints to say, but seeing that the chief's expression wasn't too good, he couldn't bring himself to say those words for a while. At this moment, the fifth elder was in a dilemma. He wanted to say something, but he didn't dare to. After a long time, he couldn't help but reveal a constipated expression on his face. However, the Alliance Master of the Ascender Alliance did not think too much about it. More importantly, he suddenly felt extremely vexed as he looked at these people in front of him. With a wave of his hand, the Alliance Master ordered everyone to leave, leaving behind only his most trusted Vice Alliance Master, the young man. After a long silence, the Alliance Master did not say anything. The Vice Alliance Master sat beside him with a calm expression. It was not until he heard a sigh that the Vice President raised his eyebrows slightly, but he still did not speak. Li Jing, what do you think we should do about this? After an unknown period of time, the Alliance Master finally spoke. Alliance Master, you must think twice before you act. Lung Ruoxue isn't someone to be trifled with. She doesn't even place the Divine Master in her eyes, let alone our Ascender Alliance. Li Jing thought for a moment and spoke carefully. Although his words made the Alliance Master a little depressed, he had to admit that Li Jing was telling the truth. Lung Ruoxue definitely had the ability to be arrogant. If the Divine Master did not take her seriously, what was the Ascender Alliance? What's more, the Ascender Alliance had provoked her. Thinking of this, the General Alliance Master couldn't help but sigh. This period of time could be considered the most sullen period for the Ascender Alliance. As for the conflict between the Ascender Alliance and Lung Ruoxue, although he had immediately dealt with it after the incident and forbade anyone from leaking this matter, how could this matter be hidden from the top factions? He knew that most of the top forces had probably received the news long ago and were waiting to watch a good show. Regardless of the outcome, such a matter was quite disadvantageous to the Ascender Alliance. If the Ascender Alliance were to admit defeat, then the status of the Ascender Alliance in the Divine Realm would probably plummet in the future. What qualifications would they still have to interact with some of the top powers on equal footing? However, if they were to go head-to-head with Lung Ruoxue, the outcome would probably be even worse. That little girl might be young, but she was definitely ruthless enough. If he really offended her, the Ascender Alliance might just disappear from the divine realm. These two outcomes were not what he, the Ascender Alliance's master, wanted. However, since things had already come to this, he seemed to be unable to think of a better way. He was worried. He was really worried. Thanks, Li Jing felt helpless when he saw the Alliance master sighing again. In his opinion, this matter was not that difficult to handle. As long as they lowered their stance and had a good talk with Lung Ruoxue, they should be able to resolve the issue. However, the Alliance Master was obviously unwilling to do so. He also knew why the Alliance Master was unwilling. It was because he had always been high and mighty, and now he suddenly wanted to beg for mercy from a little girl. He couldn't let go of his face. Since he wanted to save face, he should not have saved the third Alliance Master and the others. In any case, he didn't feel that those people were of any use, so Li Jing couldn't help but secretly praise them. Of course, he couldn't say these words out loud, so he could only think about it in his heart. On the surface, he had to put on a concerned expression. Alliance Master, I still suggest that we have a good talk with Lung Ruoxue. Let's discuss a solution that both sides can accept. Otherwise, if this matter continues to drag on, it will affect the morale of the Ascender Alliance. Li Jing suggested after some thought. You mean we should give in? The Alliance Master asked with uncertainty. How can this be considered giving in? This is a peaceful resolution. Otherwise, if we really fight over this matter, won't it benefit others? Li Jing reminded. However, many forces are watching us now, wanting to see how we'll handle this matter. If we let Lung Ruoxue off and don't pursue the fact that she killed so many of our men, I'm afraid that we'll become a laughingstock to outsiders and think that we're afraid of Lung Ruoxue. Even the people of our alliance will be dissatisfied. The Alliance Master said in a conflicted manner. Li Jing really wanted to roll his eyes at him after hearing his words. He really didn't know what the Alliance Master was thinking. What did he mean by letting Lung Ruoxue off, and not pursuing the fact that she had killed so many Ascender Alliance members? It was obvious that Lung Ruoxue didn't want to get to the bottom of this. Otherwise, the General Alliance would be in deep trouble. He still remembered the Yao family. Any faction that offended Lung Ruoxue would not have a good life. If the Yao family, one of the 8 great divine regions, did not end up well, then the Ascender Alliance could forget about it. Li Jing understood this very well, and knew that Lung Ruoxue was not to be trifled with. However, the Alliance Master had fallen into a misunderstanding. He could not get past his own hurdle. He always felt that negotiating with Lung Ruoxue would make the Ascender Alliance lose face. But what could they do if they didn't negotiate? Fight. Wouldn't the losses be even greater? Moreover, the Ascender Alliance's 3rd and 4th Alliance's people were all in his hands. They could either negotiate to get her back, or they could fight their way into the demonic land to get her back. There were only these 2 methods, and it seemed that the second option was quite unrealistic. The strength of Lung Ruoxue's side. Alliance Master, I'm in favor of peace talks. Moreover, you've looked for Master Ning. Isn't it because you don't want to have a direct conflict with Lung Ruoxue and the others? Since that was the case, negotiating for peace was the best choice. You're daydreaming if you think you can get the people from the 3rd and 4th leagues back without showing up. Li Jing stood up and gave his final advice. He then bowed and left the meeting room. After Li Jing left, the Alliance Master fell into deep thought again. At the same time, the 5th Elder of the Ascender Alliance was jumping up and down, trying to get the other elders to stand on his side and put pressure on the General Alliance Master. After he had shamelessly harassed the elders of the Ascender Alliance, he finally found the Great Elder, who was known for his integrity and was the least likely to be moved by his words. The 5th Elder, who was sitting in the 1st Elder's room, looked uneasily at the calm middle-aged man sitting opposite him. He didn't know what to say. As for the Great Elder of the Ascender Alliance, he drank his tea as if there was no one else around. He did not care if the other party had anything to say. Basically, he had already treated the other party as non-existent. After an unknown period of time, the 5th Elder finally couldn't bear it anymore and asked, Great Elder, you've always been highly respected in the Ascender Alliance. You can't ignore the matters of the third and fourth alliances. Chapter 2687. What happened to us? 2. I didn't do anything. First elder sipped his tea and said lightly, then you should have urged the alliance master to quickly settle the score with Lung Ruoxue, so that you can avenge the people of the third and fourth alliances. When the fifth elder heard this, he was somewhat impatient. I'm just an elder. If you ask me to urge the chief alliance master, wouldn't that be offending my superior? I can't do such a thing. The first elder shot a glance at the fifth elder, and said with a disapproving look, are we not going to take revenge for the third and fourth alliances? The fifth elder couldn't help but widen his eyes and ask in disbelief, you want to avenge the people of the third and fourth alliances? Then tell me, how should we take revenge for them? The great elder asked with a smile, of course we're going to find Lung Ruoxue to settle our scores. The fifth elder said through gritted teeth, are you going? If you want to go, I'm very willing to recommend you to the alliance master. The first elder looked at the fifth elder expectantly, as if waiting for his reply. Hearing this, the fifth elder almost choked. Fuck. If he were to seek revenge from Lung Ruoxue, wouldn't that be like throwing a meat bun at a dog? He had to be able to defeat Lung Ruoxue and the others. First elder, how can I be a match for Lung Ruoxue and the others? This matter needs the alliance master to step in personally. The fifth elder took a deep breath before suggesting with a serious expression, you also know that Lung Ruoxue is difficult to deal with? Then what's the hurry? The first elder was slightly displeased, and his face fell. The fifth elder was speechless. Was this old man playing with him? Alliance master will definitely be able to deal with Lung Ruoxue. The fifth elder did not give up. He took a few deep breaths and calmed himself down. What if the alliance master can't handle it? You have to know that Lung Ruoxue's strength is not weak to begin with. She also has many godly venerable rank experts by her side. On the other hand, our Ascender Alliance only has 4 godly venerable rank experts, including Vice President Zhang Miao, who has fallen into Lung Ruoxue's hands. This number of godly venerable rank experts is not even enough to fill the gaps between the enemy's teeth. Do you think we can deal with Lung Ruoxue? The great elder asked calmly. So what if we can't deal with Lung Ruoxue on our own? We can join forces with other powers. The fifth elder suggested loudly. With who? The great elder blinked his eyes and asked with great interest. The God Lord's estate or the Yao family will do. That's right. There were also the few other magical beasts from the Phoenix clan who had enmity with Lung Ruoxue. Weren't these the best partners? Those forces are all very powerful and have a deep grudge against Lung Ruoxue. They are the most suitable people to look for. The more the fifth elder spoke, the more excited he became. It was as if they had already reached a cooperation agreement with the other party. Forget it. The grand elder shook his head. Let's forget about the Divine Master's estate. The God Lord's estate has countless enemies in the divine world. We can't be implicated by them. As for the Yao family and the Phoenix tribe, fifth elder, if you can convince them, I can represent the Elder Council and make a suggestion to the Alliance Master. Otherwise, don't even think about it. First elder's words were very clear. He wanted fifth elder to contact the other forces. If they were willing to work with them to deal with Lung Ruoxue, then there would be no problem. If they were not willing, then this matter would naturally be dropped. Hearing this, although the fifth elder's expression was a little awkward, he still nodded and said, since the great elder has said so, I'll go and discuss this matter with them now. With that, the fifth elder immediately took his leave. After the fifth elder left, Li Jing suddenly pushed open the door of the next room and entered. The great elder sitting on the chair glanced at the other party and said indifferently, you heard everything? Thanks, yes. Li Jing nodded. What are your thoughts? The great elder asked with an evil smile. He's looking for death. Li Jing said with a cold smile. It's good to let him try. When he hits the wall, he'll know how difficult it is to deal with Lung Ruoxue. A cold light flashed in the first elder's eyes as he spoke with disdain. It's fine if he's hit a wall, but I'm afraid that he'll bring trouble to our Ascender Alliance. You should know that little girl, Lung Ruoxue, is a vengeful person. If things go wrong, The entire Ascender Alliance might be implicated by him. Li Jing said worriedly. I don't think so. Didn't you already send someone to contact Leng Ruoxue in private? I believe that little girl is not unreasonable. The Grand Elder said calmly. In the entire Ascender Alliance, his and Li Jing's positions were more similar. They wanted to negotiate with Leng Ruoxue and settle this matter peacefully. The General Alliance Master was hesitant and couldn't make a final decision. On the other hand, Fifth Eldress and her gang only wished for the world to be in chaos. They were bent on falling out with Leng Ruoxue. Although he didn't know why the Fifth Elder was so concerned about this matter, he was sure that the guy didn't have good intentions. I hope so. Li Jing didn't think that Leng Ruoxue would give him any face. The key to this matter was still the Alliance Master. After all, the Ascender Alliance's chief still had the final say. As the Ascender Alliance's master could not make a decision, the rescue plan was temporarily put on hold. However, the Fifth Elder of the Ascender Alliance was busier than ever. After finding an excuse, the Fifth Elder left the Ascender Alliance in an imposing manner. On Leng Ruoxue's side, their lives were as peaceful as ever. It was only until someone who claimed to be from the Ascender Alliance came to visit that his peaceful days were interrupted. Sitting in the living room, Leng Ruoxue's beautiful eyes sized up the man in front of her. She kept feeling that he looked familiar. She seemed to have seen him somewhere before, but she was sure that she had never seen him before. The man was very young, looking less than 30 years old. He was very tall, and his blue clothes made him look even more handsome and sunny. Initially, he had a smile on his face. However, under Leng Ruoxue's careful observation, his smile gradually disappeared. A trace of uneasiness uncontrollably rose in his heart. What's your name? Seeing that the young man seemed a little nervous, Leng Ruoxue smiled and retracted her gaze. She asked politely, then invited the other party to take a seat. Li Xiao. The young man replied, pretending to be calm. Is there something you need? Leng Ruoxue blinked her eyes and directly asked the other party's purpose for coming. It's my father, no. It was our vice president who sent me. Li Xiao was a little reserved. Leng Ruoxue's gaze gave him too much pressure. He was so nervous that he couldn't breathe. Oh, what did they send you here for? You want to negotiate with me? Leng Ruoxue guessed. No, Li Xiao stuttered. If you're not here to negotiate with me, then what are you here for? Leng Ruoxue was amused by his words. Why was this person so nervous that he could not even speak clearly? The Deputy Alliance Master sent me to tell you that the Ascender Alliance has yet to reach a consensus. After the opinions are unified, they will give you an explanation. Swallowing his saliva, Li Xiao's heart was beating wildly. He finally finished speaking. Leng Ruoxue didn't know how to respond. If she didn't guess wrong, the Ascender Alliance should have long been in chaos, right? At this time, a certain Deputy Alliance Master had sent his own child over. It was obvious that he wanted to appease her, so that she would not misunderstand that the Ascender Alliance was deliberately making an enemy of him. It had to be said that this Vice Alliance Master was quite considerate of the Ascender Alliance. He just didn't know if the Ascender Alliance would be grateful for his painstaking efforts. Chapter 2688. What happened to us? 3. I know. Leng Ruoxue nodded and didn't say anything else. Hearing this, Li Xiao was a little depressed. Also, he could not tell if Leng Ruoxue was happy or angry. He wouldn't be able to explain it to them when they returned. After thinking for a while, Li Xiao said, Can I stay here for a few days? I think the environment here is not bad. He wanted to build a good relationship with Leng Ruoxue and the others after he had settled down. At that time, if anything happened between the Ascender Alliance and Leng Ruoxue, they might not hold it against him on account of their good relationship. He had to admit that his idea was very realistic and practical. But it was a pity that he met Leng Ruoxue. Leng Ruoxue knew what the other party was up to, but she still agreed to let him stay temporarily. She only stipulated that he could not leave the main residence. Li Xiao didn't have any objections to this. He was also very obedient. After staying here, he didn't do anything outrageous except occasionally chatting with Uncle Long and the others. However, following Li Xiao's arrival, Something that Leng Ruoxue found unbelievable happened. Li Zhong and his brothers actually recognized Li Xiao, and even called him old ancestor. When Leng Ruoxue found out about this, she felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She had to confirm it again and again until Li Zhong and the others told her with absolute certainty that Li Xiao was indeed their old ancestor. She still felt as if she was dreaming. A random person from the Ascender Alliance was actually her big brother's ancestor. Wasn't this too much of a coincidence? Leng Ruoxue believed Li Zhong and the others, but she was still worried about Li Xiao. After confirming it with Li Xiao again and again, Li Xiao couldn't bear the other party's suspicious gaze anymore. He cried and promised that he was really the ancestor of Li Zhong and his brother, and he would never lie. Li Xiao had even said that if Leng Ruoxue didn't believe him, he could swear to the heavens. Leng Ruoxue saw that the other party was about to swear an oath under her pressure, and immediately smiled. Of course I believe you. It's just that your intentions aren't pure. I can't let my brothers get hurt. Her words were very honest, and Li Xiao was so touched that he was in a mess. He even felt a little embarrassed for his previous thoughts. In the end, he still told Leng Ruoxue sincerely, I did stay because I want to build a good relationship with you. After all, the Ascender Alliance has different attitudes towards this matter. My father and I are afraid that some people will accidentally offend you and bring greater disaster to the Ascender Alliance. Therefore, I was sent here. My father and the Great Elder want to negotiate with you. I can be considered to represent their attitude. Therefore, please understand that I really don't have any bad intentions. After saying these words and acknowledging his own descendant, Li Xiao was not as nervous when facing Leng Ruoxue. Instead, he was more sincere. On top of that, when he found out that his juniors were the victims of the Divine Continents Alliance 3 and Alliance 4, he was so angry that he almost killed the Lady of Alliance 3 and Alliance 4. Of course, not only would Leng Ruoxue not allow him to do so, Li Zhong and the rest would not allow it either. They hadn't had enough fun yet. How could he let those two die so easily? Li Xiao thought about it, and felt that this made sense. He was not in a hurry to get rid of the Lady of the Third Alliance, and the leader of the Fourth Alliance. However, their days became more difficult after that. However, his relationship with Li Zhong and the others grew closer and closer. He also sent this matter back to the Ascender Alliance and told his father. When Li Jing found out that his descendant had come to the Divine Realm, he immediately informed the Alliance Master, and rushed to Demon City without stopping. The scene of family meeting was naturally warm and lively. Uncle Long and the others were also happy that Li Zhong and his brother had found their family. They even specially arranged a celebration banquet. And everyone took this opportunity to have a good time. After reuniting with Li Zhong and the others, Li Jing was considered to have completely stood on Leng Ruoxue's side. Furthermore, he was especially grateful to Leng Ruoxue for saving his descendants. Otherwise, his little fellows would have suffered quite a bit. Naturally, Leng Ruoxue did not need him to be polite. Li Zhong and the rest were her godbrothers. How could she not save them? After staying in Demon City for a few days, Li Jing knew that he could not stay any longer, so he returned to the Ascender Alliance reluctantly. Before he left, he even told Leng Ruoxue that he would definitely think of a way to get the Alliance Master to negotiate with them. Leng Ruoxue only nodded her head, and did not say anything more. In reality, in Leng Ruoxue's heart, she really did not care what attitude the Ascender Alliance would use to deal with this matter. Of course, it would be best if both sides could sit down and negotiate. However, if the other party wanted to fall out with her, she was not afraid. However, with Li Jing's relationship, it was unlikely that the two sides would fall out. After Li Jing left, Li Xiao stayed behind to act as the bridge between the Ascender Alliance and Leng Ruoxue and the others. He was in charge of communicating the attitudes of both parties. Basically, Leng Ruoxue's attitude had remained the same from the start. Thanks, they had given the Ascender Alliance a great deal of choice. It's fine to negotiate or fight, but it all depends on your choice. As for Leng Ruoxue and the rest, their lives had returned to normal. After Li Jing returned to the Ascender Alliance, he was surprised to find that the Fifth Elder had also returned. However, the Fifth Elder's expression wasn't too good. Seeing this, Li Jing couldn't help but laugh secretly. Looking at the Fifth Elder's dark expression, It was obvious that he had failed. It had to be said that Li Jing was right. The travel-worn fifth elder had come to the Yao family's divine realm. In the beginning, he had been warmly received by the other party. However, as soon as he had explained his purpose for coming, he had been immediately chased out by the Yao family like a fly. After that, he went to a few other beast clans that had enmity with Lung Ruoxue. He didn't even manage to enter their gates before he was beaten out. It could be said that he had left in a hurry, but returned in a sorry state. The fifth elder, whose journey had not been smooth, returned to his room and threw a tantrum, but finally stopped. Without the fifth elder's interference, Li Jing felt that it would be much easier for him to convince the Alliance Master. Unfortunately, he was still thinking too easily. Just as they were discussing again in the conference room, and the Alliance Master was wavering and was about to make a decision, a guard suddenly came to report. Someone from the God Lord's estate has arrived. Li Jing had a bad feeling when he heard this. Nothing good could come from the God Lord's manor at this time. Then he turned to the Alliance Master and saw that the Alliance Master was frowning. It was obvious that he did not think highly of the God Lord's mansion's purpose. However, the fifth elder, who had been listless all this time, suddenly jumped up and shouted as if he had been injected with chicken blood. "Chief Alliance Master, the God Lord's estate has sent someone here. What are we waiting for? Let's go out and welcome them." "All right then." The Alliance Master stood up and said to Li Jing, "Li Jing, come with me to welcome the Divine Master's estate's representative. All the elders can stay in the conference room." "Alliance Master, how can we do that?" Hearing this, the fifth elder was indignant. How could he not give them such an opportunity to show their face? "Why not? Don't tell me you dare to disobey me?" The master scolded with a scowl. "I don't dare." The fifth elder hurriedly lowered his head, but he was extremely unwilling in his heart. Why did Li Jing have to benefit from being in the limelight, while they had no chance at all? The fifth elder was filled with grief and indignation, but more than that, he was jealous. However, at this time, neither Li Jing nor the Alliance Master cared about what the fifth elder thought. Very soon, the Alliance Master left the meeting room with Li Jing. Unwilling to give up, the fifth elder wanted to follow them out, but he was stopped by the first elder, who had been pretending to be asleep. The fifth elder had no choice but to stay in the meeting room unwillingly. As soon as Li Jing and the Alliance Master left the conference room, they went straight to the gate. According to the guard, the Divine Master's estate's representative was still standing at the gate, putting on airs and not willing to come in. The two of them invited the Divine Master's estate's representative into the living room with great respect, and served him good tea and snacks. At first, the representative of the God Lord's estate had wanted to continue putting on airs and not speak, but when he saw that the other two were not saying anything, he could not hold it in. One had to know that he had guaranteed that he would definitely pull the Ascender Alliance to his side during this trip. Now that the other party did not take the initiative to ask him what was going on, how could he start? After thinking for a while, he decided to ask in a gentle and casual way. "I heard that something happened to the Ascender Alliance recently?" Hearing this question, the Alliance Master and Li Jing looked at each other. After receiving the Alliance Master's signal, Li Jing blinked innocently and asked, "What happened to us?" The representative of the God Lord's manor was so angry that he was about to explode. "Why are you asking me what happened?" After taking a few deep breaths, the representative of the God Lord's estate said, "I heard that you guys have some conflicts with Lung Ruoxue. That brat killed your people from the third and fourth alliances? There's such a thing." Li Jing's eyes widened in disbelief. "You don't have any?" The representative of the God Lord's estate was furious. He truly felt that it was tiring to talk to this guy. "No, I didn't. Lung Ruoxue and I have never been in the same line," Li Jing said calmly. This time, the representative of the God Lord's estate was at a loss for words. The other party refused to admit it, so what else could he do? The anger in his heart gradually rose. And when he thought of the purpose of his trip, the representative of the God Lord's estate showed an unhappy expression. "I wouldn't have come if I didn't have enough evidence, so don't play dumb with me." Chapter 2689. Quickly let go of my girl 1. We're really not playing dumb, and there's really nothing wrong. Li Jing said very seriously, but he couldn't help but think to himself. Even if I play dumb with you, what can I do? Are you going to bite me? It was the Alliance Master who asked him to represent them. If he didn't play dumb now, he wouldn't be led by the nose by the idiots in the Divine Master's estate. He wasn't that stupid. When the Alliance Master heard Li Jing's words, he had a hard time holding back his laughter. He had never known that Li Jing was so talented at lying through his teeth. When he saw that the God Lord Manor's representative's face was red with anger, he suddenly felt much more at ease. It was as if the depression he had felt during this period of time had been swept away. It seemed that seeing others being unlucky was indeed much better than being unlucky. Thinking of this, the Alliance Master became even more silent. He even wanted to pretend to be invisible. It didn't matter if he pretended to be invisible. At least Li Jing could speak on his behalf. However, a certain representative of the God Lord's estate couldn't avoid it. No matter how angry he was, he could only brace himself and deal with the two Ascender Alliance members. However, he also didn't want to see the Alliance Master Fong sitting in his seat like a wooden man without a word. He glanced at the Alliance Master and said with suspicion, I only found out today that the Ascender Alliance's Vice Alliance Master has the final say. Then he turned to Li Jing. Vice Alliance Master, you said you're fine. I want to ask you, what's up with the 3 and 4 alliances of the Godly Continent? Didn't they get exterminated by Lung Ruoxue? Also, the 3rd, 4th alliances, and the Deputy General Alliance of the Firmament have fallen into Lung Ruoxue's hands. Shouldn't you explain these things to me? The representative of the God Lord's estate said arrogantly, as if he had found something that could be used against them. However, the General Alliance Master, who had remained calm even if a mountain collapsed in front of him, did not say a word. He only smiled at the representative of the God Lord's estate, and lowered his head to look at the ground. Li Jing laughed as well, his laughter rippling. He said in a calm and composed manner, Your Excellency, what you said is just a trivial matter. We, the Ascender Alliance, did not take it to heart at all. More importantly, these are the internal affairs of our Ascender Alliance. Do I have the obligation to explain it to you clearly? His words were a little impolite. It was obvious that he was saying that the Divine Master's estate was a busybody. The Divine Master's estate representative was furious when he heard this. He stood up from his seat and shouted, Li Jing, you really don't want to accept a toast only to drink a forfeit. Our God Lord's estate was kind enough to help you solve your problem, but you don't appreciate it. You really don't know what's good for you. You'll regret this one day. After shouting this, the representative of the God Lord's estate flicked his sleeves and left angrily. Watching the back of the God Lord's estate's representative, the two people sitting in the living room did not chase after him. However, the chief still said with a conflicted expression, Is it all right for us to offend the Divine Master's estate like this? Chief, unless you want to submit to the God Lord's mansion. Li Jing said indifferently, Why would I want to submit to the Divine Master's estate? I don't have any good feelings towards the Divine Master's estate. The Alliance Master quickly denied. So what if I don't offend them? If I don't say something harsh, the people of the God Lord's estate won't give up. Li Jing said very calmly, What you said makes sense. The Alliance Master nodded in agreement, and didn't dwell on this matter anymore. He had already offended her, so what else could he do? Seeing that the General Master's mood wasn't affected by the God Lord Manor's representative, Li Jing took the opportunity to do his job as the General Master. As for the God Lord's estate's representative, after leaving the Ascender's General Union in a rage, he didn't leave immediately. Instead, he stayed in an inn in the city. The God Lord's estate's representative was unwilling to give up since he had not completed his mission. Thus he had contacted the elders of the Ascender Alliance in private. The first person that a representative who had investigated the Ascender Alliance contacted was the 5th elder. After the two of them had a good chat in the room, the representative seemed to have promised the 5th elder some conditions, and the 5th elder became active again, as if he had been injected with chicken blood. He once again secretly tried to win over the 5th elder of the Ascender Alliance. Thanks, of course, the people he had privately looked for this time were those who had a good relationship with him and were closer to him. It was because this matter was too important to him. He hesitated for a few days. The Alliance Master finally made a decision. He wanted to personally head to the land of demons to negotiate with Lung Ruoxia. When Li Jing heard the Alliance Master's decision, he was naturally delighted and expressed that he was willing to go with them. The first elder, on the other hand, stayed at home to keep watch. Just as Li Jing and the Alliance Master were ready to set off, the Ascender Alliance was in chaos. A portion of the elders, led by the fifth elder, had betrayed them. Glancing at the fifth elder and the others who were leading a large group of fiendish-looking men in black and blocking the Ascendant's General Alliance's courtyard, Li Jingmei raised his eyebrows slightly, but he still asked calmly, "Fifth elder, what is the meaning of this?" "Ha ha ha. We won't allow you to negotiate with Lung Ruoxia." The fifth elder laughed arrogantly, his face full of pride. Li Jing furrowed his brows when he heard this. "They just don't want us to negotiate with Lung Ruoxia? Or do you have another purpose?" "Hee, Vice General Li Jing is really smart. I knew I couldn't hide anything from you. Fortunately, I did it in secret this time." "You're right, not allowing you guys to look for Lung Ruoxia is only one aspect. On the other hand, I feel that it's time to change the Ascender Grand Master and Vice Grand Master. Don't you think so?" As the fifth elder spoke, he turned around and asked the person behind him. The elder beside him immediately agreed. "That's right. We can't just watch the Alliance Master do something wrong, so we're going to impeach the Alliance Master and Vice Alliance Master." These words were righteous, but in the General Alliance Master's ears, it was full of sarcasm. They clearly wanted to force them to abdicate, but they could still say it so arrogantly. Why didn't he realize how shameless these people were before? At this moment, the Alliance Master was very regretful. It seemed like he had indulged them too much in the past, and given them too much power. Otherwise, how would they dare to betray him? How would the people from the third and fourth alliances dare to disobey his orders, and find trouble with Lung Ruoxia behind his back? But now, what was the use of blaming himself? With this thought in mind, the Alliance Master became calmer. He laughed coldly and looked up at the fifth elder with his dark, starry eyes. "Fifth elder, can you explain where these black-robed men came from?" "They..." Just as the fifth elder was hesitating whether to say it or not, another voice suddenly sounded. "They're all my people." The one who had spoken was the representative of the God Lord's estate, who had parted on bad terms with Li Jing and the Alliance Master. At this moment, a certain representative was in high spirits, looking at Li Jing and the Alliance Master as if they were prisoners. "Since you're a member of the Divine Master's estate, why do you care about the matters of our Ascender Alliance? Wasn't the Divine Master's estate's hand stretching out too far? Or does the House of God want to take the lead in breaking the rules?" The Alliance Master asked calmly. Chapter 2690. Quickly let go of my girl. 2. According to the unspoken rules of the divinity, if there was a conflict between two forces, unless one of them requested the God Lord's estate to uphold justice, the God Lord's estate could not intervene on their own accord. When one side asked the Divine Lord to show up, the conflict between the two sides had to be made public. The Divine Lord's office had to make a fair judgment without any bias. Otherwise, it would go against the Divine Lord's office's fairness and justice. Now, neither they nor Lung Ruoxia's side had requested for the God Lord's estate to step in. Yet the God Lord's estate had extended their hand. This in itself had violated some of the tacit rules of the God world. However, when he thought about the situation of the Lord God's manor, it seemed that the Lord God's manor had lost its fair and just image in many people's hearts since the last bounty incident. It was not so strange that they could do such a thing. But even so, the Alliance Master was still extremely angry with the actions of the Divine Master's estate, especially when some idiots from the Ascender Alliance had also participated in this matter. This made him even more furious. "Ha! How could our God Lord's estate break the rules? It was your fifth elder and the others who strongly requested for us to intervene in this matter. Otherwise, we wouldn't have meddled in this." The representative of the God Lord's estate laughed complacently. He couldn't help but complain in his heart. If he hadn't promised the fifth elder so many benefits, why would that old man be willing to be used by him? He's not the Alliance Master. What right does he have to make such a request? Your God Lord's estate actually listens to an elder. This is really disappointing. The Alliance Master roared with a dark face. This is none of my business. It's the fifth elder and the others who feel that you don't have the right to be the chief and want to impeach you and the vice chief. I saw that he had a good reason, so I stood on the side of justice and helped him a little. The God Lord's estate's representative found an excuse for himself. However, both Li Jing and the Alliance Master scoffed at his words. Chief, don't waste your breath on them. We have no choice but to fight. Li Jing reminded. The Alliance Master nodded, and the two of them were ready to attack. As the saying went, to catch a thief, you must first catch the leader. Therefore, both of them targeted the representative of the God Lord's estate and attacked one of them at the same time. However, the representative of the God Lord's estate calmly raised his hand, and then Li Jing and the Alliance Master, who were in the middle of the attack, felt their bodies go soft and fell to the ground. At this moment, the two of them could not exert any strength at all. Although their bodies were weak, their minds were extremely clear. What did you do to us? Li Jing looked at the representative of the Divine Master's estate in anger and roared. Yo. He's quite energetic. Hee. I didn't do anything to you. I just used some extreme means to subdue you. Who asked me to not be your opponent? The representative of the God Lord's estate replied with a smile. Li Jing felt hatred in his heart when he saw his smug look. Damn it. He didn't expect that he would actually fall for it. The other party was really too despicable. The Alliance Master was equally hateful. Ever since he had become famous, he had never been treated like this. But today he felt an unprecedented humiliation. His sharp eyes glared fiercely at the Divine Master's estate's representative. The Chief Alliance Master said in a cold voice, You'd better pray that I don't have a chance to be saved. Otherwise you'll definitely not end well. Don't worry, no one can save you. The God Lord's estate's representative guaranteed. Then he gave the fifth elder a look. The fifth elder understood and immediately brought his men to capture the first elder and the others. However, the first elder and the others didn't resist, which puzzled the fifth elder. Thanks, first elder. Why aren't you resisting? The fifth elder asked in confusion. Is there any use resisting? The General Union and the Vice Union Master have been captured, and we're not as strong as them. The first elder glanced at the fifth elder and said calmly, Ha ha ha. Great elder was still the tactful one. Don't worry, as long as you're obedient I won't kill you. The representative of the God Lord's estate laughed cheekily. It was clear that the Grand Elder's words had pleased him. However, the fifth elder was not willing to see the representative of the God Lord's estate admire the Great Elder too much. He went to the side of the God Lord's estate's representative and fawned. Your Excellency, from today onwards, I should be the Ascender Alliance's chief, right? Yes, do your best for the Divine Master. He won't mistreat you. The representative of the God Lord's estate said. I won't let the Divine Master down. Oh right, that Lung Ruoxua? Fifth elder asked again. Lung Ruoxua is nothing to be afraid of. Our Divine Master will take care of her. The God Lord's estate's representative boasted. That's good. The fifth elder was finally at ease. Soon after, he gave an order, and Li Jing, the General Alliance Master, and the others were all locked up in the Ascender General Alliance's prison. While they were in prison, the fifth elder came to visit them almost once a day. Of course, he wasn't going to visit them. He was going to mock them and watch the show. The people in the prison were well aware of this. Therefore, no matter how depressed they were, they remained calm on the surface. Li Jing, in particular, would mock the fifth elder from time to time, causing the fifth elder to fly into a rage every time, but there was nothing he could do about it. At most, he would kick him a few times in anger, but he did not dare to kick him too hard. This was because the God Lord Manor's representative had said that Li Jing and the Chief Alliance Master were still of great use, and had to be alive. The fifth elder did not dare to disobey the other party's words. After a major change happened in the Ascender Alliance, the news was immediately blocked. Therefore, the outside world was still unaware that an earth-shaking earthquake had occurred in the Ascender Alliance. Li Xiao started to worry after she couldn't contact her father no matter how hard she tried. However, he was also afraid that he had made a mistake in being paranoid. Hence, after enduring for a few days and not being able to contact Li Jing, he went to look for Lung Ruoxue in a panic. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue was in the Bengal, discussing with the first elder of the Armament Guild headquarters about the matter of refining armaments. When she heard Li Xiao calling for her loudly from outside her room, she helplessly put down the matter at hand and walked out of the Bengal. The moment she saw Lung Ruoxue, Li Xiao immediately grabbed her hand and said anxiously, "Shuai, something must have happened to my father." "Don't be anxious, speak slowly." Lung Ruoxue consoled. "I can't contact him. Something must have happened to him. Could it be that the Alliance Master did not agree with his opinion and felt that he had betrayed the Ascender Alliance, so he locked him up?" Li Xiao guessed anxiously. "I don't think so." Lung Ruoxue blinked her eyes. She really wanted to tell Li Xiao that she was thinking too much. Li Jing wasn't so stupid as to reveal his own trump card first. "Shuai, I can't be wrong. There are many factions in the Ascender Alliance. If someone knows the relationship between my father and you, there will definitely be people who will hit you when you're down. In case it causes the Alliance Master's suspicion, my father will most likely be convicted as a traitor. I know them too well." Li Xiao sobbed. His eyes filled with tears, but he forced them back. Chapter 2691. Quickly let go of my girl 3. Seeing him like this, Lung Ruoxue didn't know how to comfort him. If his guess was right, then she really couldn't just ignore the fact that something had happened to her godbrother's ancestor. After some thought, Lung Ruoxue said seriously, "Li Xiao, you don't have to worry too much. I'll discuss this matter with Uncle Long and the others to see what we can do. Shuai, I'll have to trouble you," Li Xiao said, somewhat embarrassed. "It's no trouble at all. Just wait for my news." Lung Ruoxue turned around and left the courtyard. He had only taken 2 steps when a white bolt of lightning suddenly rushed into his arms and found a good place to lie down. Lung Ruoxue glanced at the little white fur ball in her arms and said helplessly, "Azure, you've come out of seclusion?" Only after she returned did she find out that Azure was in closed-door cultivation. When she heard the news, she was baffled. As a tool spirit that had cultivated for tens of thousands of years, was there still a need for it to go into seclusion? "Ehe. I didn't go into seclusion. I just took a nap." Now that he had woken up, Neo had also returned. "That's good." Song was still in his cat form. He stretched lazily and said with a smile. Then he snuggled into Lung Ruoxue's arms and acted coquettishly. "You." Lung Ruoxue was helpless. She knew it. How could Azure go into closed-door cultivation for no reason? So he went to sleep. As the man and beast conversed, they had already reached the living room. Uncle Long, Dongfangyu, and the others were currently looking at Demon City's blueprint. It was unknown what they were discussing. When they sensed Lung Ruoxue's arrival, everyone raised their heads in unison. "Shuai, that old man is willing to let you out?" Master Ning looked at Lung Ruoxue with a face full of dissatisfaction as he complained. "Yes, I came out for something." Lung Ruoxue smiled. "What is it?" Uncle Long asked with a frown. Shuai wouldn't show up unless there was something important, but once she did, it would definitely be something big, so he was a little worried. "Li Xiao told me that Li Jing seemed to have met with an accident." Lung Ruoxue said bluntly. "How could this be? That guy isn't weak, and he's a reverent god, so he shouldn't be in trouble that easily." Uncle Long didn't believe it. After spending a few days with Li Jing, he knew very well how sinister and cunning that human was. Nothing would happen to him, even if something happened to anyone. But Li Xiao said that he can't be contacted. "Uncle Long, do you think we should send someone to take a look? What if something really happened?" Lung Ruoxue suggested. "Who's Li Jing?" At this moment, Azure, who heard the name of a stranger, couldn't help but ask. "The Ascender Alliance's Vice Alliance Master, and also my godbrother's ancestor." Lung Ruoxue explained. "It seems like many things happened while I was sleeping." Lung Ruoxue was speechless. "This was not the main point, okay? There's no need to go and see. Something has indeed happened to the Ascender Alliance." Song said with a frown. It had just used its divine sense to investigate, and found that there were many subordinates of the Mist Ripple Bitch. "What?" Hearing this, Everyone present couldn't help but stand up from their chairs. Because what Song said was true. Something had indeed happened to the Ascender Alliance. And not that something had happened to Li Jing. What did this mean? Senior Azure, can you explain yourself? Master Ning said carefully. Their divine senses could not see that far away, and they could not use their divine senses to check on others in the divine realm. Otherwise, they would cause disputes if they were discovered. However, as the spirit of the God-protecting tower, Song had no such concerns. If you're looking for someone called Li Jing, I've found one in the prison of the Ascender General Alliance. Moreover, he's not the only one in that prison. There's also someone called the General Alliance Master. Azure smiled faintly. The person known as the Alliance Master is also locked up in a cell? Master Ning asked in surprise. Yup. There seems to be a great elder and a group of small shrimps. Azure added. Everyone present was speechless. Something had happened to the Ascender Alliance? Everyone found it unbelievable. One must know that the Ascender Alliance was also one of the top forces, and its strength was definitely not weak. Who could have caused them to be in trouble? Could it be the doing of the Divine Master's estate? Is it the Divine Lord's estate? Uncle Long wanted to confirm. Yes. Song nodded and didn't keep him in suspense. Hearing this, there was a moment of silence. Thanks. Why couldn't this God Lord's estate be more peaceful? Wasn't Wu Chen seriously injured? Could it be that he had recovered so quickly and was planning to come out again? Uncle Long, Godfather, since the God Lord's estate has made a move on the Ascender Alliance, we have to take care of this matter. The Ascender Alliance must not fall into the hands of Wu Cheng. Lung Ruoxue said seriously. The Ascender Alliance wasn't weak in the deity world. If they became Wu Xian's dog, it would cause trouble for them. She definitely didn't want to see such a thing happen. Otherwise, she would have dealt a fatal blow to the Ascender Alliance back then. Yes, Shuang. Let's make a trip to the Ascender Alliance and rescue Li Jing and the others. Uncle Long and the others nodded in agreement. You guys stay at home, I'll go with Shuer. Azure spoke again. Uncle Long and the others were dumbfounded. Was he looking down on them for being in the way? They're just a few small fries. There's no need for you to mobilize so many people. Azure continued. If Senior Tsong went, wouldn't that be considered a big move? Everyone couldn't help but secretly mutter to themselves. However, they absolutely didn't dare to say these words out loud, or else Senior Tsong would definitely be furious. Thinking about Azure's violence, everyone couldn't help but shiver. Helplessly, they nodded in agreement. In fact, they had no choice but to agree. Before they set off, Feng Zhan and Li Xiao had strongly requested to follow them. However, Song only glanced at them indifferently, and Feng Zhan immediately shut his mouth. However, he still didn't give up and mumbled softly. With me here, we can fly faster. No matter how fast you are, can you be faster than me? When Azure heard this, his mouth twitched and he said in disdain. This time Feng Zhan was truly speechless. Although Azure couldn't fly, he could teleport. Even a supreme god couldn't catch up to him, so he really couldn't. After dealing with Feng Zhan, Song started to deal with Li Xiao. He looked at Li Xiao with extreme disdain and said, You're just a weak child from a previous marriage. You should just stay at home. Don't drag us down. Hearing this, Li Xiao's heart was filled with tears. He was a divine emperor after all. Why did this cat say that he was a burden? And a weak child from a previous marriage? This was a huge blow to him. However, when he saw that everyone agreed with the cat's words, Li Xiao did not dare to reply. No matter how blind he was, he could tell that this cat had a high status in everyone's hearts. He really did not dare to provoke a cat like this. Especially when he saw that no one objected when the palm-sized white cat said that it wanted to go with Lung Ruoxue to save the people. He knew that this cat was not someone he could afford to offend. However, why had he never heard of such a cat by Lung Ruoxue's side? With a stomach full of questions, Li Xiao and the rest watched as Lung Ruoxue and Song teleported and disappeared from the main entrance. At this moment, an extremely resentful voice came from the crowd of people who were sending them off. I can become invisible, but Master didn't even bring me along. Wu Ling was the one who was sobbing. He was extremely sad. Everyone looked at him with sympathy, not knowing how to comfort him. In everyone's understanding, with Song personally making a move, it was impossible for Shui to keep a low profile and save the person without anyone knowing. With that, Ling would naturally be of no use. What invisibility? Those were all fleeting clouds. Whatever Song wanted to do, he would always do as he pleased. It could be said that Azure didn't know what invisibility was. When it was in a good or bad mood, it preferred to use violence against violence. However, if Lung Ruoxue wanted to move stealthily, Azure would not object. But this time, Lung Ruoxue did not make such a request. So Song naturally thought that Nyo also agreed with its idea. Azure's speed was indeed fast. In less than an hour, Song had brought Lung Ruoxue to the Ascender Alliance's territory. When they arrived at their destination, the man and beast walked on the Ascender Alliance's streets as if there was no one else around. The moment the 5 Alliance Masters, who had rushed over after hearing the news, saw this, they immediately wanted to pull Lung Ruoxue to a corner with no one. When Song, who was being hugged by Lung Ruoxue, saw this, he immediately bared his teeth and shouted, "Bastard! What do you want to do? Quickly let go of my girl." Seeing that someone was trying to take advantage of his girl, Song was so angry that all his white fur stood on end. 2 sharp and cold lights shot out from his cold eyes, scaring the 5th Union Master so much that he immediately let go and hurriedly explained, "Don't misunderstand. I have something to report to this little ancestor. If you have something to say, say it. If you have something to fart, then let it out. Why are you touching me? You can't even take advantage of me." Azure was still very angry, and it even felt that the other party's explanation was a little too obvious. That's what bad guys say when they want to take advantage of others. Taking advantage of others is not human. Azure's brain automatically filled in the blanks. Lung Ruoxue broke out in a cold sweat. Song's thoughts. Hearing this, the 5th Alliance Master burst into tears. He did not have the guts to take advantage of this ancestor. He was just too excited and accidentally tugged on Lung Ruoxue's arm. Was he taking advantage of her? "Don't malign me like this, okay?" He was really aggrieved. The 5th Alliance Master looked at Lung Ruoxue with hidden bitterness, hoping that she would speak up for him. However, Lung Ruoxue ignored the pleading in his eyes and asked directly, "If you have something to say, just say it. My ancestors. It's not convenient to talk here. There are many people watching." The 5th Alliance Master warned with a bitter face. "What are you afraid of? They've already found out that you came to find me, so there's no need to hide." Lung Ruoxue said nonchalantly. She had long known that there were people following her and Song in the shadows. Now that the 5 Alliance Masters had come to look for her, she did not believe that the cooperation between the 2 of them could still be hidden. Since that was the case, there was no need to do anything unnecessary. Chapter 2692. A Beautiful Misunderstanding 1. Lung Ruoxue was very calm, but the 5 Alliance Masters couldn't be like her. However, it did make sense after some thought. He had already come to see Lung Ruoxue, so the news of their meeting must have spread to the General Alliance. After thinking this way, the 5th Master nodded and said straightforwardly, "The General Union is having an earthquake." "Just this? Okay. We already knew." When Azure heard this, he said with some disdain, "It thought that this guy had something important to do. It turned out to be a follow-up attack. You know? How did this happen?" He thought he was very fast. The 5th Alliance Master was extremely conflicted. Under Azure's disdainful gaze, he didn't know what to do. Seeing the constipated expression on the 5th Master's face, Lung Ruoxue nodded her head kindly. "We already know about it. That's why we're here." I thought. The 5th Alliance Master could not continue. "Your news is indeed a little late." Lung Ruoxue sighed. "That's right. Their work efficiency is really bad." Song interjected from the side. Hearing this, the 5th Alliance Master was so depressed that he didn't know what to do. After hesitating for a while, he explained, "I also wanted to tell you the news as soon as possible, but the entire Ascender Alliance has been blocked. The news can't be spread." "It's fine." Lung Ruoxue expressed that she did not mind. She then smiled at the 5th Alliance Master and said, "Are you going to take us to the General Union?" Yes, you can. The fifth master stammered. He had wanted to refuse, but then he thought that this was a good opportunity to make a contribution, so he didn't want to let go of this opportunity. After that, his eyes started to search behind Lung Ruoxue. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue was puzzled and asked, Alliance Master 5, what are you looking for? Hurry up and lead the way. Miss Lung, where are your subordinates? The fifth master couldn't help but ask. No, it's just the two of us. Lung Ruoxue pointed at the little cat in her arms. The 5 alliance masters were shocked. A human and a cat wanted to go to the General Alliance? To do what? Was he going to die? He was afraid. In this situation, it was obvious that he wouldn't get any benefits from the General Alliance. Did he still want to go? The fifth master was very regretful. He felt that he had agreed too early. Now he was riding on a tiger and couldn't stop. If he didn't go, he didn't know if the kitten's sharp claws would tear him into pieces. Because he had already caught sight of the kitten's sharp claws hidden in the gaps between its toes. In just a few minutes, the fifth master thought about many things. In the end, he couldn't help but remind her. Miss Lung, they have a lot of people, and you only have 2 people. The ratio of the people is a bit different. More people make things easier. The 5 alliance masters felt that his words were very subtle, but in Song's ears, it was not the case at all. Song thought that this guy in front of him was clearly looking down on his combat strength. What was a mere ant to him? It could deal with it with 1 claw. However, although Song was somewhat angry, he miraculously didn't say anything. This further confirmed the 5 alliance masters' suspicions and made them even more worried. Lung Ruoxue noticed the obvious nervousness on the 5th master's face and smiled. The 2 of us are enough. The others have things to do and can't come here. Thanks B, but the other side had a lot of people. The 5th alliance master wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He wanted to say something, but after the cat casually glanced at him, he couldn't say anything. He was very worried. He was going to the General Alliance with them to make a contribution, not to die. Unfortunately, Lung Ruoxue couldn't care less about what the 5 Union masters thought. She felt that her demon city was still under construction. So how could she stop the construction just because of the Ascender Alliance? Besides, there was no need for that. Therefore, she really could not understand why the 5th master was so conflicted. Looking at the 5th master's timid expression, Lung Ruoxue patted his shoulder and said, Show us your manliness. We're not afraid, so what are you afraid of? Of course he was afraid. After hearing this, the 5th master felt even more resentful. He felt that he had really made a mistake. He didn't know if he could still keep his life after going to the General Alliance. Sob. The 5th Alliance Master was filled with regret. Why did he take the initiative to show Lung Ruoxue the way? Wasn't this self-inflicted? However, no matter what he was thinking now, it was impossible for him to back out. Thus he made up his mind and said, Miss Lung, how about I go back and bring some people over? Your people? Will that do? Lung Ruoxue was a little suspicious. It wasn't that she wanted to attack the other party, but the 5 alliances were the weakest under the Ascender Alliance. The 5th Alliance Master was in tears. Lung Ruoxue was stabbing a knife into his heart. He was really accurate. At this time, Cold opened his mouth. It's good to bring some people, but they'll at most be our audience and cheer for us. Song's words settled the attitude of the 5 Alliance Masters' subordinates. The 5 Alliance Masters accepted their fate. He didn't believe that his people wouldn't be able to help. With this thought in mind, the 5 Alliance Masters immediately returned to their encampment to gather their men. They also agreed to wait at the teleportation array with Lung Ruoxue. Just as Lung Ruoxue and Songbai were standing beside the teleportation array in boredom, the teleportation array suddenly lit up. Lung Ruoxue raised her brows and saw a group of people walking out from the teleportation array. The man in the lead looked familiar, but Lung Ruoxue could not remember where she had seen him before. Miss Lung, it's great to meet you here. The man in the lead exclaimed in surprise the moment he saw Lung Ruoxue, who was beside the teleportation array. You? Lung Ruoxue frowned, feeling puzzled. Did she know this man? The man burst into tears. From Lung Ruoxue's expression, it was obvious that she had forgotten about him. After thinking for a while, the man couldn't help but say, Miss Lung, we met on the godly mainland. I was sent to deal with you. Have you forgotten? She had really forgotten. However, with the man's reminder, Lung Ruoxua finally remembered. She said in realization, So it's you. Seeing that Lung Ruoxua had remembered, the man was very happy. However, before he could show his happiness or have a chance to catch up with Lung Ruoxua, Song, who heard everything, immediately exploded and shouted, You dare to bully my girl? He was really tired of living, humph. I won't let you off. Just you wait. You bastard. What had its girl experienced before? Why did some random people dare to bully her? No. It would never allow such a thing to happen. Azure decided that when he had the time, he would definitely teach those who bullied Nyo a good lesson. He had to make them remember that not everyone could bully his Nyo. Chapter 2693. A Beautiful Misunderstanding. 2. Thinking of this, Azure deliberately released some of his pressure, causing the man's face to turn pale with fright. He quickly explained, I didn't bully Miss Lung. I was just following orders. Moreover, I even surrendered at that time. It's true. Miss Lung can be a witness. Woo, this cat is so fierce. The man didn't dare to let it misunderstand, so after explaining, he immediately looked at Lung Ruoxua, hoping that she could say something nice for him. At the very least, she had to comfort this angry cat. Yes, he didn't bully me. He has also surrendered. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxua hurriedly spoke the truth. Otherwise, Songyi might really kill the other party in a fit of anger. Hearing this, Azure's expression became slightly better, but he still asked fiercely, Whose order did you follow? Second Alliance Master. The man didn't dare to hide anything. Second Alliance Master, right? Very good. I won't let him go, he's dead. Azure gritted his teeth and shouted, He's already dead. I'm the Second Alliance Master now. Please don't misunderstand. The man choked. He felt that he had really encountered an undeserved disaster. How could he have encountered such a thing? How unlucky. I see. Looking at the man in front of him, and then at Lung Ruoxua, Song decided to let the other party off. However, he still warned, Kid, follow my girl in the future. I guarantee you'll have meat to eat. Yes, actually I'm here to look for Miss Lung. When the man heard this, he immediately expressed his stance. If you have something to say, say it. Lung Ruoxua asked out of curiosity. Miss Lung, something big has happened in the Ascender Alliance. I wonder if you are interested? The man, who was the current Second Alliance Master, asked in a low voice. What, you want to take the opportunity to climb up the ranks? Lung Ruoxua was very straightforward. After hearing this, the Second Alliance Master didn't know how to react. Could he not be so realistic? Although he did have that thought, he wouldn't have come to look for Lung Ruoxua the moment he found out that she had arrived at the Ascender Alliance. Is hypocritical. You obviously want to, but you still pretend to be so noble. Seeing that the Second Alliance Master didn't speak, Song said with a look of disdain. All right. I do have that thought, but other than Miss Lung, I don't know who to look for this kind of thing. The Second Alliance Master finally spoke the truth. This matter was definitely a great opportunity to rise in power. If he didn't grasp it, he would be a fool. Furthermore, he had already thought about it for a long time. He felt that in the entire immortal realm, other than Lung Ruoxua, there was no one else who would dare to interfere in this matter. However, he did not know if Lung Ruoxua would be willing to bring him along. Now that he was the one asking for help, the Second Alliance Master couldn't help but lower his stance. We can help you, but you have to listen to my girl in the future. Before Lung Ruoxua could speak, Song made the decision. No problem. I've always respected Miss Lung. The Second Alliance Master expressed his feelings. That's for the best, but you still have to make an oath after it's done, Song insisted. Thanks, I can swear it now. The Second Alliance Master immediately said, wanting to leave a good impression. You're quite tactful. Since that's the case, then swear. We won't mistreat you after this. Song Yinhua said. The Second Alliance Master was very happy to hear this. He felt that it was understandable to make an oath. After all, who would believe an outsider for no reason. Hence, he did not hesitate to swear a loyalty oath to Lung Ruoxue. He also stated that he would not do anything to harm Lung Ruoxue. Otherwise, he would be severely punished by the rules of heaven and earth. Azure was satisfied and looked at the second alliance master much better. In fact, even if he didn't make the other party swear, he believed that the other party wouldn't dare to do anything harmful to his own girl. However, wouldn't it save them a lot of trouble if they made an oath? Right at this moment, the fifth Union Master had also arrived at the teleportation array with his team. Seeing the second Master, the fifth Master couldn't help but widen his eyes and ask loudly, "Second Alliance Master, what are you doing here?" Alliance Master 5 was a little uneasy. Nothing good could come out of the second Alliance Master's visit. He didn't want the other party to snatch away his great opportunity, even though he didn't think Lung Ruoxue and that cat would do well. This wasn't because they doubted their strength, but because the number of people on the two sides was clearly not on the same level. "I'm here to look for Miss Lung," the second Alliance Master said confidently, but he couldn't help but sneer in his heart. He knew about the other party's relationship with Lung Ruoxue. However, they were both grasshoppers on Lung Ruoxue's vine now, so he didn't expose the fifth Alliance Master. "What is it?" The fifth Alliance Master had a look of vigilance on his face. He couldn't help but think to himself, when did the second Alliance Master have a relationship with Lung Ruoxue? Why didn't I know about it? He's here to work with us. He has the same goal as you, so we're all comrades now. You guys have to get along well in the future, understand? Seeing the tension in the air, Azure smiled faintly and explained. Hearing this, the second Alliance Master was very calm, but the fifth Alliance Master was a little conflicted and depressed. What the hell is this? Originally, he was the only one who would benefit, but now, the second Alliance Master was suddenly competing with him. This made him feel extremely unbalanced, as if something important was about to leave him. He felt a little pained. Song looked disdainfully at the narrow-minded fifth master, and gave Lung Ruoxue a look. The man and beast then stepped into the teleportation array. Wait! Seeing that Lung Ruoxue had left, the fifth Alliance Master wanted to call out to her, but was suddenly pulled back by the second Alliance Master. The second Master glanced at the fifth Master indifferently and said earnestly, "Alliance Master 5. One must be smart and know how to put in practice. Otherwise, if you make our sugar daddy unhappy, won't we be the unlucky ones?" "What do you mean by that?" The fifth Alliance Master didn't react in time. "Do you think you can take all the benefits for yourself? I'm telling you, stop dreaming. If you make Lung Ruoxue unhappy, we'll end up with nothing and you'll have to cry, so be good, okay? Well, just do whatever they say. More importantly, in front of Lung Ruoxue, it's best for us to appear to be more harmonious. Understand? Even if you're pretending." The second Alliance Master warned. I understand." The second Master's words immediately alerted the fifth Master. His earlier behavior had obviously angered the cat. He could not let this go on because he could feel that the cat had a very important place in Lung Ruoxue's heart. Otherwise, it would not make decisions for Lung Ruoxue. When he thought about his performance just now, he felt that he had already made Lung Ruoxue and the cat unhappy. What should he do? He was at a loss. The second Alliance Master looked at him, and the anger in his heart rose. How useless. No wonder he could only be the fifth Alliance Master. The second Alliance Master said, but he still had to put on a friendly expression and placate her. "Be careful in the future and perform well. Now let's quickly catch up to Lung Ruoxue and the others." Chapter 2694. A Beautiful Misunderstanding 3. Alliance Master 5 naturally didn't object to Alliance Master 2's suggestion. The two of them led their subordinates into the teleportation formation. When they arrived at the General Union, they were surprised to find Lung Ruoxue waiting for them at the teleportation array with Song in her arms. "Have we reached an agreement?" Lung Ruoxue said nonchalantly. When the two heard this, they were shocked and quickly nodded. "Well, live in harmony. That's for the best. No matter what you're thinking, don't drag me down," he said. Lung Ruoxue warned. "Understood, we will do our best." The two of them promised. Lung Ruoxua nodded and said, "Let's go to the General Union's encampment. I'll lead the way." The 5 alliance masters said. After he finished speaking, he walked straight to the front. Lung Ruoxua followed behind him, followed by the 2nd alliance master and his subordinates. As soon as their team appeared, they attracted a lot of attention on the streets of the General Union. Many brave people were talking about them in private, but no one knew what they were doing here. Suddenly, someone recognized Lung Ruoxua. This time, all the onlookers exploded. What is Lung Ruoxua doing here? Did the 5th and 2nd master work together to capture him? It's possible. Hehe. It seems like Lung Ruoxua isn't that great after all. The discussion of the crowd naturally could not escape the ears of Lung Ruoxua and the rest. When they heard this, Lung Ruoxua and the rest were all speechless. Alliance Master 2, Alliance Master 5, and the rest were so nervous that their hearts were trembling. They were afraid that the passers-by's comments would anger Lung Ruoxua. However, Lung Ruoxua obviously didn't lower herself to the level of the passers-by. She continued to carry Azure and walked on the road calmly. When the onlookers saw that the other party didn't refute their words at all, they were even more certain of their speculations. The 2nd and 5th alliance masters' hearts, which had been in their throats, finally settled down when they finally arrived at the Ascender General Alliance's encampment with great difficulty. Wiping the cold sweat on his forehead, the 2nd alliance master couldn't help but explain. "Miss Lung, don't mind the words of those passers-by. They don't know the current situation of the Ascender Alliance at all. Otherwise, they wouldn't be discussing it like this." Yep, that's right. Only the higher-ups of the Union know about the General Union. And the news hasn't spread yet, so don't listen to their nonsense. The 5th alliance master said, not to be outdone. "You're overthinking it. Do I look like I mind? However, if you can hand me over to the people of the Divine Master's estate, you'll have done a great service." Lung Ruoxua laughed lightly as she teased. The 2nd and 5th masters broke out in cold sweat. Hand Lung Ruoxua over to the Divine Master's residence? Did they have the guts? Ah! Alliance Master 2, Alliance Master 5, you've done a great job this time. At this moment, a proud voice rang in Lung Ruoxua and the rest's ears. Following that, the arrogant 5th elder led a group of elders and walked out of the main entrance of the General Alliance's encampment. He glanced arrogantly at Lung Ruoxua, who was standing at the main entrance. Then he turned his loving gaze to the 2nd and 5th masters and praised them. "You've done well in this matter. Can I ask, what are they doing well?" The 2nd and 5th masters were confused. They really didn't do anything worthy of the 5th elder's praise. One had to know that they had brought Lung Ruoxua here to cause trouble. Yet 5th elder actually praised them. What was this? The two of them were in a dilemma. However, when they saw Lung Ruoxua smiling as she stood at her original spot without saying a word, they tactfully kept their mouths shut. "Men, take Lung Ruoxua away and lock her up in the prison." After complimenting him, the 5th elder loudly instructed his subordinates. He was so proud of himself. The moment Lung Ruoxua entered the Ascender Alliance's sphere of influence, he had received the news. Initially, he thought that Lung Ruoxua was here to cause trouble. At that time, he was shocked. Later on, he received news that the 5th and 2nd Alliance Masters had contacted Lung Ruoxua. At that time, he was so furious that he wanted to rush over and capture the two traitors immediately. However, he held back his anger as he was a timid person. However, he had just found out that the 2nd and 5th Alliance Masters were not traitors. They had personally captured Lung Ruoxua and brought her to the General Alliance. How could he not be happy? More importantly, at this very moment, he was completely shocked by the news of Lung Ruoxua's capture. He had completely forgotten how Lung Ruoxua had been captured. It had to be said that this was a beautiful misunderstanding. After knowing that Lung Ruoxua had come to the Ascender Alliance, 5th elder had been trying to keep a low profile and not take the initiative to start a conflict with her, who asked his backer to be so drunk that he was in a mess and couldn't help him at all. Without a backer, he was nothing. Even if he wanted to deal with Lung Ruoxua, he didn't have the guts to. 5th elder, who had been keeping his eyes closed, only started to panic when he received a report from the guard that the 2nd and 5th master had brought Lung Ruoxue over to the General Alliance. He definitely did not have the confidence to deal with Lung Ruoxue. Thanks, however, in the face of so many pairs of expectant eyes, he, who had only been the Alliance Master for a few days, absolutely couldn't lose face. Thus, he braced himself and brought a group of elders to the main entrance. Just as he reached the main entrance, he happened to hear the last half of Lung Ruoxue's sentence. Instantly, his heart was filled with joy. It turned out that he had misunderstood the Second and Fifth Alliance Masters. Not only did the two of them not betray the Ascender Alliance, but they had even used some unknown method to capture Lung Ruoxue and send her to the Divine Master's residence. Very good. Very good. This was definitely a great achievement. That was why he had praised the Second and Fifth Masters so much. He was so excited that he couldn't think of anything else. The Second Master and the Fifth Master didn't understand why they were praised because it was different from what they had imagined. Now, when the two of them saw that the Fifth Elder had ordered for Lung Ruoxue to be locked up in the prison, they were instantly anxious. The battle hadn't even started yet. Why did you lock him up first? Would Lung Ruoxue be so obedient and not resist? The two of them were speechless at Fifth Elder's words. However, after receiving Lung Ruoxue's signal to tell them to calm down, the two of them could only gloomily and obediently keep their mouths shut. Following that, Lung Ruoxue was sent to a prison cell by the guards arranged by the Fifth Elder. After capturing Lung Ruoxue, Fifth Elder's mind was at ease. He continued to praise the Second and Fifth Masters, saying that they had performed very well, and that he would put them in an important position. From now on, they were one of his own. After promising the Second and Fifth Alliance Masters a bunch of empty checks, the Fifth Elder sent them away. On the way out of the General Alliance, the Second and Fifth Masters felt dizzy, as if they were in a dream. How did this happen? They had clearly not done anything, and were clearly on the same side as Lung Ruoxue. However, Lung Ruoxue was now locked up in a cell, while they were treated as the trusted aides of the Fifth Elder. What the hell is this? The two of them were so depressed that they wanted to buy a piece of tofu and knock themselves to death. Don't play with me like this, okay? The depressed Second Alliance Master didn't return to the Second Alliance. Instead, he went to the Fifth Alliance with the Fifth Alliance Master. Sitting in the Five Unions living room, the two sat face to face, frowning, neither saying a word. Suddenly, the Second Alliance Master slammed the table. Damn it, how did this happen? I don't know. I don't know what we've done to make the Fifth Elder misunderstand us like that. The Fifth Master pulled his hair in confusion. The Second Alliance Master also carefully recalled that they really didn't do anything. Why was the outcome of the matter different from what they had originally imagined? A thought flashed through his mind, and he suddenly said with some uncertainty, "Didn't Miss Lung say that if we could hand her over to the people of the Divine Master's estate, it would be considered a great contribution?" The Fifth Master blinked his eyes and nodded. "I did say that, but it can't be that just because of this sentence, Fifth Elder would misunderstand, right? It's not impossible. Don't be fooled by the Fifth Elder's boisterous appearance. In reality, he's still very afraid of Lung Ruoxue. In addition, he couldn't wait for this to happen. Thus, with his imagination, we've become the people who have contributed to the battle." The Second Alliance Master calmly analyzed. As a minor character, he understood the thoughts of people like the Fifth Elder. He was ambitious, but he was not that bold. He wanted to do something, but he was too timid. In addition, the new official wanted to perform well. Thus, a huge mistake appeared. And this mistake would definitely be a disaster for the Fifth Elder. At least, the Second Alliance Master could already foresee the Fifth Elder's fate. If that's the case, what should we do next? The Fifth Master felt that the Second Master's analysis was reasonable, but what was their next step? What were they supposed to do? The Fifth Alliance Master was at a loss. Lung Ruoxue had not given them any instructions, so they could not just sit around and do nothing. "Let's wait." The Second Alliance Master, who had dealt with Lung Ruoxue before, said with experience. "All right. Just wait." The Five Alliance Masters did not have any good ideas and did not dare to act on their own. Who knew if Lung Ruoxue had any other ideas? Unfortunately, he was in prison now. As for Lung Ruoxue, who was in the prison cell. She naturally had no idea about the conflict between the 2nd and 5th Alliance Masters. After she was caught, she was locked up alone. This made her a little dissatisfied. Hence, the moment the guard left, Lung Ruoxue immediately took out her cold shadow and rudely broke the lock on the cell door. She then walked out of the cell as if there was no one else around, and even swaggered around the cell to take a look. It had to be said that the cells of the Ascendants, General Alliance, could be considered clean. Although there was also some smell, it was obviously better than the other cells she had been to. She was very satisfied with the environment here. After taking a look around, Lung Ruoxue walked with elegant steps towards the cell with the most prisoners. Standing at the prison entrance, Lung Ruoxue graciously greeted the people in the prison. "Hello everyone, I'm very happy to have the opportunity to meet all of you here." Chapter 2695. Coal in the Snow? 1. Hearing that someone seemed to be greeting them, the people in the cell who were deep in thought quickly raised their heads and were stunned. Lung Ruoxue. Everyone was shocked. Why would he see Lung Ruoxue here? At first, everyone thought that their eyes were playing tricks on them. However, after double-checking, they realized that Lung Ruoxue was indeed standing right in front of them. As for Lung Ruoxue's appearance, there was no way they would mistake her. Who asked this woman to be so famous in the god world? You. Why are you here? With a stomach full of questions, Li Jing asked the question on everyone's mind. When the crowd heard this question, they stared at Lung Ruoxue without blinking, waiting for her to answer. Lung Ruoxue smiled faintly when she heard that. She then said with a face full of hidden bitterness, "I was sent here by your 5th elder." She was implying that she had been caught. However, the people in the prison cell obviously did not believe her words. Would this little girl be caught by that idiot 5th elder? Wasn't this a fantasy story? It would be possible if she came to him on her own accord? Wait a minute. He delivered himself to her door? What was she trying to do? The question marks in everyone's hearts grew. Only Li Jing knew that Lung Ruoxue had come to the Ascender Alliance because of him. Otherwise, why would this little girl appear in the prison? This thought warmed Li Jing's heart. He did not expect that the one who came to their rescue after they were captured would be their enemy in name. This was truly unbelievable. However, at this moment he heard Lung Ruoxue's voice. "Your 5th elder is too unrefined. He actually locked me up in a cell. How lonely is that? It's better to have a few companions." Hearing this, everyone was speechless. Li Jing's mouth could not help but twitch. At this moment, the only thought in their hearts was that this woman's requirements were so high that she wanted to have a companion while in prison. Alright. It seemed like she had most likely come here to keep them company. Everyone was depressed, especially the Alliance Master, because Lung Ruoxue had seen him at his most depressed and embarrassing moment. That, since you've been captured by the 5th elder, why didn't you stay in your cell? Why are you running around? Finally, an elder from the Ascender Alliance could not help but ask curiously. The prison was empty. I didn't like it, so I came out. Lung Ruoxue explained with a smile. How did you get out? An elder continued to ask. They also wanted to go out. I broke the lock and came out. Lung Ruoxue's answer was very concise. When everyone heard this, they collectively felt their balls hurt. The lock of this cell was specially made. How could it be so easy to break? One must know that they had thought of many ways these days, but they couldn't get the lock to open. Now that the lock was broken with a single word, they were so ashamed. Yes, they felt inferior. Lung Ruoxue saw that after they heard her words, their expressions were extremely conflicted, yet they didn't say a word. She felt that they didn't believe her words, so she directly took out the cold shadow and gave it a light swing. With a cold glint, the lock fell to the ground. Thanks, a crisp bang woke up everyone who was lost in their thoughts. When they looked up, they saw Lung Ruoxue holding an extremely sharp and cold sword. The lock was at her feet. Instantly, everyone's lips twitched and they were speechless. It really was smashed open. It was wrong. It was split open by a sword. What a sharp divine weapon. At that moment, everyone's eyes were fixed on the cold shadow in Lung Ruoxue's hand. They had even forgotten that they were still prisoners. Feeling the burning heat from everyone's eyes, the cold shadow in Lung Ruoxia's hand started to tremble and let out a woo-woo sound. Lung Ruoxia knew that this was the cold shadow's protest. The current cold shadow had been nurtured by her to become more and more intelligent, and it had also produced a weapon spirit. However, the cold shadow's weapon spirit was still too small and could not transform. It could only communicate with her in the simplest language. And at this moment, the cold shadow was saying that it hated the wretched gazes of these old men looking at it. He had even asked Lung Ruoxia for help. Lung Ruoxia shuddered and urgently reminded everyone. Wake up, all of you. Don't look at my sword with such passionate eyes. It's not happy. If you keep looking, I can't guarantee that it won't attack you. Her words were definitely not alarmist talk. Everyone present could also feel the warning that the sword was sending to them. They could only look away with black lines on their heads. Seeing that they had finally calmed down, Lung Ruoxia smiled charmingly. She then opened the cell door and walked into their cell. The crowd looked at Lung Ruoxia's actions in a daze, not knowing what she was trying to do. Lung Ruoxia didn't explain further. She just walked to the empty seat beside Li Jing and sat down. What was this? Everyone's eyes were filled with question marks. Lung Ruoxia smiled calmly then said, Since we're all in jail, I suggest we have a chat to avoid boredom. Chat. Talk about what? Experience in prison? The people present, including Li Jing, did not feel that there was anything to chat about in this place. Furthermore, when he saw Lung Ruoxia's actions, Li Jing could not be sure if she was here to save them. She was here to save someone. Did she plan to chat with them as if nothing had happened? Who would be in the mood to chat at this time? However, Li Jing found it even more difficult to believe that she had not come to save someone, and had really been captured by the Ascender Alliance. After the trip to the land of demons, he was already very clear about the strength of Lung Ruoxia's side. It was impossible for the Fifth Elder and the rest of the idiots to capture Lung Ruoxia. But now, these two thoughts kept appearing in his mind, and he was almost confused. What, don't you want to talk? Lung Ruoxia blinked her eyes and asked innocently when she saw that no one was saying anything. Talk about what? Li Jing had no choice but to cooperate. Let's talk about how you were caught. From my observation, the firepower of the Fifth Elder's side is obviously not as good as yours, but you've been locked up in prison. This is really puzzling. Lung Ruoxia laughed evilly. Then she took out a small table, a pot of tea, a few teacups, and some freshly made desserts. Seeing this, Li Jing's mouth twitched again. He was really planning to have a tea party with them. They were really well prepared. Li Jing and the others broke out in cold sweat. Besides that, they also wanted to add that they were equally puzzled about Lung Ruoxia's imprisonment. Come. Don't stand on ceremony, everyone. It's rare for me to treat you to tea today. You know you usually have to pay for a cup of tea from me. Seeing that no one spoke, Lung Ruoxia took it that they were embarrassed and took the initiative to greet them warmly. She even poured a cup of tea for each of them. But after hearing her words, the black lines on everyone's foreheads became even more. The teacups in front of them felt like they were burning their hands, and they didn't dare to move at all. Chapter 2696. Coal in the Snow? 2. Seeing that they didn't move for a long time, Lung Ruoxia drooped her shoulders in disappointment. There seemed to be tears in her beautiful eyes. Everyone was terrified and kept winking at the Alliance Master and Li Jing. Li Jing had no choice but to say, "We." However, he only said 2 words before he could not continue. "You bastard. This little girl actually came up with this? This is too much. Who can stand this?" It was as if they had bullied Lung Ruoxia. I swear to the heavens. They clearly didn't do anything right. Unfortunately, just as he thought of this, Azure's displeased gaze immediately drifted over to him. Then everyone heard Azure fire roar. Damn it. You dare to bully my girl? You're really tired of living. Facing the enraged Azure, everyone was speechless. They really didn't do anything? When did he bully Lung Ruoxia? However, Songkai didn't care so much. In its heart, if these people didn't answer Nio's question, it was their fault. Quickly explain. Azure roared again, even deliberately releasing a bit of his pressure. In that instant, Everyone in the prison, except Lung Ruoxue, felt the pressure increase. Some of the weaker elders' foreheads were covered in cold sweat as they looked at Song in fear. This little white cat's strength was so terrifying. Although he didn't know who this cat was, the tactful great elder still nudged Li Jing, signaling him to quickly explain and not make this little cat unhappy. At the same time, First Elder was certain that Lung Ruoxue was not captured by the Fifth Elder. With this little white cat around, the Fifth Elder and the others were no match for him. Li Jing laughed bitterly. He did not dare to delay any further and quickly told the truth. After Lung Ruoxue heard this, she sized up Li Jing and the Alliance Master, who was silent and had a dark expression on his face, before coming to a conclusion. Looking at your appearance, you really don't look like you've been poisoned. We are unable to use divine power right now. Li Jing said honestly. Hee. You're so lucky, you must have been poisoned by that bitch Wu Luan. When Azure heard this, he gloated. As far as it knew, the rippling mist bitch loved to use her own poison to refine all kinds of poisons, and what these people were feeling now should only be one of them. Good luck. Li Jing was depressed. How could he not think so? Is there a way to cure it? The similarly depressed Alliance Master saw that Song seemed to have some understanding of this poison, and couldn't help but ask. There's a way. Azure smiled mysteriously. When Li Jing and the Alliance Master heard this, they immediately perked up their ears to listen, afraid that they would miss something. It can be removed by using the flower petals on the body of the mist ripple. Seeing the two of them looking forward to it, Azure smirked and added. The two of them immediately wilted when they heard that. They all knew that Rime Ice was a plant, and she was a god master. How could she give them petals of her own accord? Rob. That's just daydreaming. The two thought of all kinds of possibilities, but in the end, they couldn't come up with a good idea. Song, who knew their thoughts, confirmed. It's the petal of a mist ripple bitch. She definitely won't take the initiative to give it to you. You must know that if she drops a petal, she will lose at least 1,000 years of cultivation, so don't even think about giving it to you. But I think you can go and rob. This is the fastest and most direct way. Thanks snatching it. Wasn't that courting death? The two of them didn't comment on Song's useless suggestion. They could even see that the kitten was clearly playing with them. Who would instigate others to do something that was impossible? What was the difference between this and seeking death? The two of them were so depressed that they almost went crazy. Who knew that Shirt Song would continue? Of course, there's still a certain level of difficulty in snatching it from you. With your current strength, it's like throwing meat buns at a dog, or sending flower fertilizer to that killjoy bitch. So you can give up on this suggestion. He knew that they couldn't complete it, but he still told them? When the two of them heard this, they really wanted to buy a piece of tofu and knock their heads to death. How could he play with people like this? However, Li Jing seemed to have picked up on something from the kitten's words, so he humbly asked, I wonder if Senior has a better idea? There are. Azure nodded. This was the reason why he had said so much nonsense. What is it? Li Jing was a little impatient. You can buy flower petals from me. Azure had a kind expression. Does Senior have it? Li Jing could not believe it. Yes, as many as you want. Azure laughed complacently. The last time Fog had fled in a sorry state, it had left behind a lot of flower petal fragments. Any one of them was enough to detoxify them. Then can you sell us a piece? Li Jing asked carefully. Sure. Azure nodded. If it wasn't for sale, why did it make so many preparations? Do you have nothing to do? May I know how much it costs? Li Jing asked the most important question, and he knew that this was probably the cat's real purpose. Just as Li Jing held his breath and waited for the cat to make a big demand, Song suddenly waved a paw. Li Jing and the Alliance Master blinked. What was the meaning of this? The two of them didn't understand. Moreover, this number was not easy to guess. It could be 10,000, 100,000, or even 1,000,000. More importantly, they didn't know what the little cat wanted. You want Jingshi? Li Jing asked. Yes. Azure smiled and nodded. 100,000 top-grade crystals? Li Jing didn't dare to say that it was too low, much less too high. He only set a medium price that he and the Alliance Master could happily accept. Of course, it wasn't that they didn't value their lives, but they had just started to bargain. He had to leave some room. Azure shook his head. 1,000,000 top-grade crystals? The Alliance Master gritted his teeth. Azure shook his head again. 10,000,000 top-grade crystals? The Alliance Master's face turned white, and he wanted to cry but had no tears in his heart. Woo. He knew that the other party would not sell the flower petals for such a cheap price. Azure still shook his head. It can't be 100,000,000 top-grade crystals, right? Li Jing's face was deathly pale. Although he had a good relationship with Lung Ruoxue and the others, 100,000,000 top-grade crystals was truly too much. He was afraid that after buying that petal, their Ascender Alliance would go bankrupt. However, if it was compared to their lives and the Alliance Master's, they would have to pay even if they had to sell everything they had, let alone 100,000,000. However, who knew that after Li Jing said 100,000,000, Song still shook his head. Then Li Jing offered another billion, but Song still didn't agree. In the end, when the price dropped to 10 billion, Li Jing and the Alliance Master's emotions could no longer be described as fear. Alright. Their lives were priceless. No amount of money could buy it. This time they had a deep experience. Chapter 2697. Coal in the Snow? 3. But even so, Song was still not satisfied. Li Jing and the Alliance Master were in tears. This was the rhythm of wanting them to die. Senior, we really can't guess how much you want to sell the petals of Rime Ice for. Can you give us a number? Don't make us guess. Li Jing pleaded pitifully. This was definitely testing the endurance of their hearts, wasn't it? A top-grade crystal. Song said with a look of disdain. These two idiots, why didn't they know to start from the same beginning? When the two of them heard the price, they collapsed to the ground in an exaggerated manner. The others were also dumbfounded, not understanding why the situation had suddenly become so dramatic. A top-grade crystal. Weren't God Lord Mist Ripple's flower petals a little too worthless? Everyone was extremely frightened. What, you want it? Seeing everyone's fearful faces, Song's mood was great. You're really only selling it for one top-grade crystal? Li Jing's heart was beating wildly, and he could not believe what he had just heard. Of course, it's already good enough for that piece of crap to be worth one top-grade crystal. If it wasn't for the fact that I didn't want to sell it at a low price and didn't want to give it to you for free, I would have only wanted one low-grade crystal. But I also have to think about your status. You are the Ascender General Union's chief and vice chief, so the things I sell must be in line with your status. Don't you think so? Azure said with an expression that said I'm doing this for your own good. However, his words not only slapped Fog in the face, but also caused Li Jing and the Alliance Master to be implicated. Li Jing and the Alliance Master were even more depressed. It seemed that in this cat's heart, their identities were only worth one top-grade crystal? Sob. This was too much of a blow. However, they knew that if Wu Chen knew about this, she would be even more depressed than they were. And Song was indeed deliberately trying to mock Fog, who let that woman bully his girl. It couldn't kill the woman easily, but couldn't it find trouble for her? Just like that, the two sides came to an agreement. In the end, Li Jing and the Alliance Master each bought a petal fragment at the price of 2 top-grade crystals. After the transaction was completed, Song Yu kindly told the two that it was best to immediately refine the flower petals into pills. Otherwise there might be trouble. When the two heard this, they immediately became nervous. What should he do? Under such conditions, where were they supposed to find an alchemist? All of a sudden, an idea came to Li Jing's mind. He looked at Lung Ruoxue with a burning gaze. Shuer, you're an alchemist, right? Yeah, but I don't have a certificate. Lung Ruoxue nodded. It's fine. The Alliance Master said nonchalantly. At this time he couldn't care so much. The most important thing was to refine the flower petals into medicinal pills and detoxify their poison. But my price is very expensive. Are you sure you want to find me to refine pills? Lung Ruoxue blinked her beautiful eyes and kindly reminded him. How expensive is it? The Alliance Master couldn't help but ask. In order to refine your detoxification Dan, in addition to the petals of miasma, you will also need a lot of ordinary herbs. What if I provide the ordinary herbs? When you leave this place, you will have to pay me 10 times the reward, or the herbs of the same value. If you provide the herbs yourself, you will only have to pay 3 times the amount of the herbs required for alchemy. You can decide for yourself. Lung Ruoxue gave him 2 options. When the Alliance Master heard this, he was immediately conflicted. The price was indeed extraordinarily high. However, he could clearly feel that the flower petal in his hand was getting restless and restless, so immediately refining the flower petal into a pill was the right choice. After thinking it through, the Alliance Master no longer hesitated, and directly expressed that he was willing to pay 10 times the reward. He also hoped that Lung Ruoxue would be able to refine the antidote for them as soon as possible. Don't worry, it'll only take a few minutes. Lung Ruoxue was very satisfied with the other party's attitude. She then took out a small and exquisite pill furnace, and laid out all sorts of medicinal herbs. The types and dosage were all clearly marked out. She was honest with everyone. After letting the Alliance Master see it clearly, Lung Ruoxue's hands moved quickly, lighting the fire, putting in the herbs and so on. The entire set of movements was as smooth as floating clouds and flowing water, dazzling the eyes of the people present, and making them unable to catch their eyes. In a moment, the pill was freshly made. When Li Jing and the Alliance Master received the 2 blood-red pills, they were so excited that tears filled their eyes. They had been sulking for several days, and now they could finally recover their divine power. Without any hesitation, they swallowed the pill. Immediately after, the 2 of them clearly felt a hot and warm current flowing through their dantian, making them extremely comfortable. Then, the 2 of them tested their divine power, and sure enough, they had all recovered. Young Miss Lung, many thanks for the pill you refined. In his excitement, the Alliance Master did not forget to thank Lung Ruoxue. Thanks, don't worry, you've already paid. Lung Ruoxue replied indifferently. Alright. The Alliance Master could feel that although this little girl had refined pills for them, she was still angry. She was probably still angry about what had happened. The Alliance Master was in a dilemma. However, after witnessing Lung Ruoxue's alchemy skills, it strengthened his determination to befriend her. He was just not sure if she would give them this opportunity. After thinking for a while, the Alliance Master asked, Miss Lung, can you tell us why you were caught? Everyone present wanted to know about this. Hence, the moment the Alliance Master spoke, everyone immediately turned their attention to Lung Ruoxue. Lung Ruoxue blinked her eyes and said innocently, I don't know either. I originally invited the 2nd and 5th Alliance Masters to come to the Ascender Alliance to cause trouble. I don't know how, but your family's 5th elder misunderstood, and thought that I had been captured by the 2nd and 5th Alliance Masters and sent to him. So he locked me up. Her words were very casual, but the people who heard it were all drenched in cold sweat. They knew that the 5th elder's brain wasn't working well. Otherwise, why would he make such a low-level mistake? However, it was also fortunate that the 5th elder was extremely stupid, which gave them a chance to be saved. Wait, something doesn't seem right. The Great Elder, who clearly felt that they had overlooked something, thought carefully and couldn't help but ask. When you were captured by the 5th elder, you didn't resist? Why should I resist? They have a lot of people. I need to be more practical. Lung Ruoxue said matter-of-factly. Hearing what she said, everyone present felt their balls hurt again. Practical knowledge? Was there such a practical person? This bastard clearly wanted to see the world in chaos, alright? At this moment, no matter how stupid the crowd was, they could tell that Lung Ruoxue had definitely been captured on purpose. The poor 5th elder was still daydreaming. The crowd started to sympathize with the 5th elder. Then what's going on with the 2nd and 5th Alliance Masters? After sighing and sympathizing for a while, the Great Elder asked again. I'm here to cause trouble, so of course I have to find someone who knows the way. They are the guides I found for myself. Besides, they know that you're in trouble and want to save you, so they're very cooperative with me. Lung Ruoxue put in a few good words for Alliance Master 2 and Alliance Master 5. After all, those 2 were half her people. As the saying goes, it's good to have acquaintances. Of course, she was not willing to let others take advantage of such a great benefit. The Ascender Alliance still has some loyal members. Good. Very good. Sure enough, the General Master was very satisfied after hearing this, and his impression of the second and fifth masters improved a lot. One must know that he was originally against promoting the current second alliance master to the position. However, with many elders speaking up for him, he had no choice but to agree. Where's the 5 alliance masters? He was also a mediocre person who had never had any outstanding performance, but now it seemed that those 2 people were also hiding their true strength. At the very least, he had to be absolutely loyal to them, which was much more important than strength. After all, one's strength could be slowly improved, but loyalty was quite rare. Especially at this time, the other party did not hit them when they were down and even wanted to save them. What a rare and valuable quality. The Alliance Master decided that he would reward the 2 of them handsomely after he dealt with the 5th Elder and the other traitors. Lung Ruoxue wasn't interested in his thoughts, and she didn't want to know either. However, the Alliance Master's words made her speechless. Wasn't this fellow too easy to coax? She had only said a few good words, and she was so sure that he was loyal? Alright. She would just take it as the other party being loyal. In any case, this was also a fact that she wanted to create. However, she couldn't help but complain. It really wasn't easy for the Ascender Alliance to develop to its current scale, with such a soft-hearted chief. Lung Ruoxue laughed for a while before she said seriously, "Since you're all fine, can you leave now?" "Sure." The Alliance Master nodded his head in a daze. These words made him even more certain that Lung Ruoxue had come specially to save them. Instantly, he was moved beyond words. What a good man. He actually came all the way here to save them. If it wasn't for the inappropriate occasion, he really wanted to cry out loud. He didn't expect that when they were in trouble, the one who came to save them was actually his enemy in name. Although this fact would make people feel a little depressed, who could say that this wasn't sending coal in the snow? At this moment, not only did the Alliance Master think so, but the First Elder and the others also realized that he was here to do good. What a noble sentiment this was. He was definitely worthy of their commendation. Of course, he had to wait until he left this place and dealt with the traitors. After reinvigorated themselves, under the leadership of the Alliance Master, the Ascender Alliance's people stepped out of the prison door with their heads held high and were ready to fight. They had been too aggrieved when they were captured previously. This time, they had to avenge their humiliation no matter what. Lung Ruoxue carried Song and walked with Li Jing at the back of the group. "Schwerer, thank you for coming to save us." Li Jing expressed his thanks via voice transmission. "You're welcome. I'm here to see you for the sake of my god brothers." "Oh right, remember to pay me after you're done," Lung Ruoxue said calmly. Li Jing was speechless again. Was this girl so into money? However, after thinking about it carefully, they really didn't have the obligation to save them. So, he was completely taking advantage of his descendants. Chapter 2698. Inhuman 1. Li Jing's feelings were extremely complicated, but Lung Ruoxue had no interest in caring about his feelings. After following the large group out of the prison, she saw that the Alliance Master and the rest had already subdued the guards and were preparing to find the traitor, 5th Elder, to settle the score. Seeing that Lung Ruoxue had been released from prison, the Alliance Master nodded at her and led the elders to the 5th Elder's residence. At the same time, Alliance Master 5, who had just returned to Alliance 5, and Alliance Master 2, who had shamelessly gone to visit them, had also received Lung Ruoxue's notice and rushed over to perform. When they arrived at the 5th Elder's residence, the crowd first cleaned up the guards in the courtyard, and then directly blocked the 5th Elder in his room. At this moment, the 5th Elder was preparing to take off his clothes and take a nap. This was because he had to celebrate with the other elders later on for capturing Lung Ruoxue, the biggest threat to them. When the General Alliance Master led the group into his room, he happened to take off half of his clothes. Then both parties were stunned. The Alliance Master and the others didn't expect that their enemy would meet in such a situation. The other party was actually preparing to sleep. The hand that was taking off his clothes immediately froze when he saw them. His eyes were even wide open. It was obvious that the other party was too surprised by their sudden appearance. In fact, the word surprised was not enough to describe Fifth Elder's current mood. Shock. It was an absolute shock, wasn't it? Who wouldn't feel guilty and afraid when they saw the former leader they had harmed suddenly appear? Especially at such a relaxed time. It was even more unbearable for such a thing to happen. After being stunned for a long while, the Fifth Elder stammered. She heard the Fifth Elder say, "Why are you here?" The Alliance Master sneered and said with a faint smile, "Shouldn't the Fifth Elder ask us how you got out of prison? How did you guys get out?" The Fifth Elder obediently added. In fact, he had said this out of habit. He was used to being a lackey. When he heard the leader's intentions, he would always unconsciously want to satisfy it. He was still not used to showing off in front of the Alliance Master. And he even felt scared when he saw the Alliance Master. "I should be the one who let them out." Lung Ruoxue chimed in with a smile. When Fifth Elder heard this, he was instantly enraged and directed all his anger towards Lung Ruoxue. "Damn it! How could you do that? Don't you know that you're also my prisoner? So what if I know? Do you think that the Ascender General Union's prison can hold me?" Lung Ruoxue said disapprovingly. Don't be too proud. The people of the God Lord's estate are still in our Ascender Alliance. They won't let you off." The Fifth Elder's face was red with anger as he threatened. "Just as well, I didn't plan on letting them go." Lung Ruoxue smiled lightly, causing the Fifth Elder's anger to rise. "And you?" Azure added indifferently. Then he stretched out his furry little claws and caught the Fifth Elder, who was jumping up and down in his claws. He directly carried him over. What do you want to do?" The Fifth Elder, who was being held up like a little chick, asked in horror. Damn it. The other party's claws were so sharp, he better not cut his skin. Who knew that just as the Fifth Elder thought of this, Song's claw would slash across the Fifth Elder's chubby face, leaving behind a claw mark that was neither deep nor shallow. "Thanks, now you know what I want to do?" Song asked with a smile after doing something bad. You're too despicable. I won't let you off." The Fifth Elder was so angry that blood was rushing to his head. His face had turned purple, and his eyes were so wide that they almost popped out. However, Song didn't care about the Fifth Elder's words at all. Instead, he continued to smile evilly. "Old man, what do you want to do to me?" "Oh, I don't want to let you go either. Tell me, who will be the final winner between the two of us?" Song's curious expression made the Alliance Master and the others speechless. They couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat for the Fifth Elder. Looking at the situation, they would not be able to get a share of the Fifth Elder. In fact, if it was possible, they still hoped to get rid of the Fifth Elder internally. However, when they saw the kitten in front of them acting as if the Fifth Elder was already in its grasp, none of them dared to snatch the food from it. After thinking this through, the Alliance Master and the others turned around almost at the same time, not looking at the Fifth Elder who was pleading for help with his eyes. For an ingrate, any outcome would be self-inflicted. The Alliance Master and the others decided to ignore the Fifth Elder. Seeing this, the Fifth Elder couldn't help but curse in his heart. Fuck. This was really disloyal. They were all members of the Ascender Alliance. How could they allow a cat to bully their own family on their own territory? Too much. This is too much. At this moment, the Fifth Elder had already forgotten how he had treated the Alliance Master and the others. When it came to betraying others, if he claimed to be second, no one would dare to claim to be first. However, some people were like this. They had completely different expectations for themselves and others. What he did was natural and right, and if others did the same, they would be guilty of unforgivable crimes. At this moment, the Fifth Elder's heart was filled with extreme hatred. However, facing the little kitten that had grabbed him, he felt an inexplicable fear in his heart. This was rather inconceivable. However, he didn't have the chance to think about it. Song's claws scratched his face again, causing him to cry out in pain. He glared at Song with fire in his eyes. Unfortunately, Song didn't care about the other party's reaction at all, and suggested to Lung Ruoxue with a smirk. "Girl, I remember that you have to raise your beast taming level, right? Let's see how he is. Can I make up for your number?" Hearing this, Lung Ruoxia's face darkened. This was a human, not a beast, all right? You bastard. I'm a human. Seeing this, the fifth elder also roared in anger. In my heart, there's no difference whether you're a human or a beast. You can be tamed anyway. Azure said with an unconcerned smile. The fifth elder was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He immediately started to resist. However, no matter how he struggled, he couldn't break free from Song's grip. This fact made the fifth elder extremely depressed. How did this happen? How did this happen? The fifth elder was filled with grief and indignation. He wanted to launch a sneak attack, but before he could finish brewing, he felt a pain in his wrist. A burning sensation spread to the bottom of his heart. The pain made his face pale, and he was so afraid that he didn't dare to resist at all. Girl, quickly try it. This old fellow isn't very obedient, and always wants to do some small tricks. After teaching fifth elder a small lesson, Song started to persuade Lung Ruoxia. Helpless, Lung Ruoxia could only bite the bullet and try out her beast-taming technique on fifth elder. After trying it out, she was surprised to find that it seemed to work. Chapter 2699, I'm human too. It was too magical. Lung Ruoxia looked at Song in shock, not knowing what to say. When Song Yi saw Lung Ruoxia's expression and the fifth elder's sudden silence, he knew that he had succeeded. Song chuckled, feeling very proud. It had said that this old fellow could make up the numbers. As expected, he didn't let it down. Girl, in the future, if our enemies are obedient, we won't kill them first. Well, use them to upgrade your beast-taming technique, how about it? Azure suggested again. Lung Ruoxia nodded. She was just thinking about where to find so many beasts to tame. Now that she had enemies to make up the numbers, she could save a lot of trouble. Who asked her to have so many enemies? After the experiment was successful, she felt that Azure's suggestion was good. This way, she could upgrade her beast-taming technique. However, the conversation between the two of them made the Alliance Master and the others break out in cold sweat. Using the beast-taming technique on a human. It's so scary, isn't it? It was truly unfortunate to become Lung Ruoxia's enemy. It was one thing to be tamed, but to be tamed using a beast-taming technique. How much of a blow to one's self-esteem would that be? However, it seemed like he didn't need to care about the enemy's self-esteem. After all, enemies were meant to be abused. The Alliance Master and the others couldn't help but shiver at the thought of it. That was close. They had almost become Lung Ruoxia's enemies, but now their relationship didn't seem to be that of friends. This would not do. After the internal conflict in the Ascender Alliance was resolved, he had to communicate with Lung Ruoxia properly and build up their relationship. The Alliance Master had made a decision in secret. After that, the Alliance Master said to Lung Ruoxia, Miss Lung, well, go and deal with the internal strife first. What about you? What he wanted to ask was whether Lung Ruoxia was going to follow them, or if she had other plans. I'm going to find someone from the God Lord's estate to get to know them and catch up. Lung Ruoxia said after some thought. For the Ascender Alliance, she only needed the fifth elder, who asked the fifth elder to lock her up in a cell. As for the others, she didn't care, but she didn't want to let anyone from the Divine Master's estate go. When the Alliance Master heard this, he immediately understood Lung Ruoxia's intentions and tactfully said, Then we'll split into two groups and act separately. Yes, little five can lead the way for me. You guys go ahead and do your own things. Lung Ruoxia nodded in satisfaction. The little five that she was referring to was naturally the fifth elder. Xiaowu, who was called out, nodded her head foolishly. Lead the way. Seeing this scene, the Alliance Master and the others couldn't help but twitch their lips. She was really obedient. After watching Lung Ruoxia and Song leave under Fifth Elder's guidance, the General Alliance Master led the group to find the other members of the Ascender Alliance. With the Fifth Elder leading the way, Lung Ruoxia and Song found the whereabouts of the people from the God Lord's estate without much effort. The Fifth Elder had arranged for them to stay in the best guest courtyard in the Ascender General Alliance. At this moment, those people were in a deep sleep. Lung Ruoxia and Song Du had arrived in front of them, but they still did not know. Their snores were loud, and they had no intention of waking up. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue didn't waste any words and immediately threw several large water balls at these people. In an instant, the ice-cold water balls woke everyone up. Thanks. When everyone in the God Lord's manor woke up, they were still a little dazed. Then they looked around and realized that they were sleeping on the ground in the courtyard. He wasn't the only one in the surroundings. Almost all of them had been gathered together. What was going on? Was he sleepwalking? It even rained? The crowd was puzzled and looked at each other in a daze. No one noticed Lung Ruoxue's presence. In reality, they were in the courtyard because Lung Ruoxue had instructed Fifth Elder to move them out of their rooms, so that it would be more convenient for her to wake them up. She deliberately cleared her throat a few times and decided to increase her presence. At this time, everyone was shocked to realize that there were other people here besides them. Turning their heads to look at the source of the voice, everyone in the God Lord's estate turned pale and panicked. Their minds instantly sobered up. Oh, why is Lung Ruoxue here? When did she arrive? Why are you here? The God Lord's estate's representative's face alternated between green and white as he asked in fear. Even though he dared to show off in front of the Fifth Elder, he did not even dare to speak loudly in front of Lung Ruoxue, because this woman was too terrifying. I can't be here? What if I say that I'm only here because of you? Don't you feel honored? Lung Ruoxue was all smiles as she asked in an unusually gentle manner. However, when the representative of the God Lord's estate heard this, it was as if the end of the world had arrived. He had come here for them? Didn't that mean he was here to find trouble with them? Thinking of this, the God Lord's estate representative became even more afraid. He trembled and said, Lung Ruoxue, we didn't offend you. Why are you here? The representative of the God Lord's estate said carefully, but he wanted to cry in his heart. This fiend was not to be trifled with. Didn't you want to subdue the Ascender Alliance? You've already offended me. Lung Ruoxue said indifferently. The Ascender Alliance has nothing to do with you. The God Lord's estate is well aware of this. After calming himself down, the representative of the God Lord's estate could not help but remind him. In other words, he was telling him not to meddle in other people's business. They have nothing to do with me. However, after you have subdued the Ascender Alliance, they have a relationship with me. Don't you think so? Lung Ruoxue's smile was extremely charming. However, this smile was terrifying in the hearts of the Divine Master's estate representatives. However, the representative of the God Lord's manor still pretended to be confused and said, I don't understand what you mean. You don't understand? Do you need me to make myself clear? Lung Ruoxue squinted her beautiful eyes and asked in a dangerous tone. No need. The God Lord's estate's representative immediately said, Since I don't need to say it, let's solve the problem between us now. Are you going to surrender, or do you want me to do it? Lung Ruoxue acknowledged her kindness, so she gave them two choices. Of course, personally speaking, she still hoped that these people would surrender on their own. That way, she would be able to save herself a lot of trouble. However, it was obvious that the representative of the Divine Master's estate did not have such a high level of awareness. After hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, he continued to smile shamelessly. Lung Ruoxue, let's talk this out. Why are you fighting and killing? If we don't fight, how can we solve the problem? Lung Ruoxue deliberately sighed and put on a helpless expression. Can we leave this place immediately? The God Lord Manor's representative didn't want to go head-to-head with Lung Ruoxue. This woman wasn't even afraid of the God Lord, so how could he be a match for her? Of course not. I didn't ask you to leave, so how can you leave? Lung Ruoxue chuckled lightly. Either die, stay, or surrender. Live and stay, your choice. Azure added. Both paths had to be left behind, but the methods were different. Unfortunately, he didn't want to choose any of the representatives of the God Lord's estate. He didn't want to die, and he didn't want to stay either, because he knew that neither result would be good. Chapter 2700. Am a Human? 3. After thinking for a long time, the representative of the God Lord's estate finally made up his mind and said fiercely, Lung Ruoxue, Don't think that I'm afraid of you just because I'm giving you face. You're alone, right? There are so many of us here. Do you think you can keep us here? You can try. Lung Ruoxue said calmly. When the other party saw that Lung Ruoxue did not deny that she was the only one on their side, he felt at ease. He even held his head high and laughed out loud. Lung Ruoxue, you're alone and you still dare to boast so shamelessly? I really don't know where you get your confidence from. When the others heard this, they also laughed wildly in cooperation. Who said that it's only for Miss Lung? At this moment, an angry roar was heard. Then, the second and fifth masters appeared in the guest house with their subordinates. Following closely behind them were the Alliance Master and the others, who had quickly dealt with the traitors and rushed over to make up the numbers. Seeing that Lung Ruoxue's side had suddenly gained many reinforcements, the God Lord Manor's representative was not afraid. Instead, he looked at the Alliance Master and Li Jing with even more disdain and laughed. Even a defeated opponent dares to come and court death. Damn it. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have been captured. The Alliance Master immediately roared in anger. All is fair in war, haven't you heard of it? Who told you to be so careless? The God Lord's estate's representative said shamelessly. That's reasonable, all's fair in war. Lung Ruoxue agreed. Hearing this, the representative of the God Lord's estate became more and more proud. He couldn't help but show off to the Alliance Master and the others. Even Lung Ruoxue feels that you guys are too useless. Miss Lung, can you let me deal with this person? The Alliance Master ignored the representative from the God Lord's estate and spoke to Lung Ruoxue instead. Yes. Lung Ruoxue nodded. She knew that the Alliance Master wanted to take revenge, so she couldn't stop him. She simply took a step back and watched the show from the side. Then, the Alliance Master took a big step forward and stood face to face with the representative of the God Lord's estate. As soon as the two of them met, the chief immediately attacked. Countless light blue water attribute divine power was released from his hand, which instantly turned into sharp water blades that shot toward the God Lord estate representatives. The God Lord's estate's representative couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. You've actually recovered your divine power. However, he didn't panic. He also raised his hand and threw a small handful of colorless and transparent powder into the air. This time, the Alliance Master was mentally prepared. The moment the other party moved, he quickly covered his mouth and nose. Seeing this, the representative of the God Lord's estate snorted and said, You think you'll be fine if you cover your nose and mouth? Hearing this, the Alliance Master's eyes widened. What did this mean? He didn't need to think about it himself. The representative of the God Lord's manor then asked, I'm telling you, it's useless. You're dead today. Is that so? Just as the Alliance Master was bewildered, Azure asked with a faint smile. Of course. The God Lord's estate's representative thought that it was the Alliance Master who had said this, so he replied with great pride. However, he soon realized that the one who interrupted him was the little kitten that he had ignored all this time. I don't believe it. Azure said as if the other party was a big liar. Damned animal. You shut up, you have no right to speak here. The God Lord's estate's representative turned to shout at Song Ho. He had wanted to scold the silly cat when it interrupted him earlier, but he didn't have the time to do so. Now that he had the opportunity, how could he not retaliate? Wouldn't he be looked down upon by a cat? Who knew that as soon as he said this, Azure's body immediately emitted an endless cold pressure and roared. You bastard! You're the animal. Your whole family is a bunch of animals. Azure didn't feel that it could vent its anger just by roaring. After it finished scolding, it quickly jumped out of Lung Ruoxue's arms and dashed towards the representative of the Divine Master's estate at lightning speed. Everyone could only see a white beam of light dancing in the air, followed by tragic screams, each more tragic than the last. A moment later, the white beam of light returned to Lung Ruoxue's arms, returning to its image of an obedient little kitten. At the same time, the representative from the House of Gods was covered in claw marks. Blood was dripping down from his wounds, and his clothes were like torn cloth, hanging on his body on the verge of collapse. He only stood in front of everyone for a few seconds before he fell to the ground and passed out. Tragic. How tragic. Thanks, the onlookers only felt their scalps go numb and fear rose in their hearts. This little cat was really too ruthless. It had not even been a minute, and he had already scratched him to this extent. How much hatred did he have for her? The Ascender Alliance couldn't imagine it, but at the same time, they were glad that they weren't its enemy. Otherwise, they might have been the ones lying on the ground. However, the people from the God Lord's manor could not be as calm as them. Seeing that the person in charge was unconscious and his life or death was unknown, they were all afraid without a leader. All of them looked at a loss. What should they do? Should they resist or surrender? This was the only thought on the side of the Divine Lord's estate. Do you want to die? Seeing that they were wavering, Azure's eyes widened and he shouted, "No, I don't want to die." Some people couldn't take the shock and knelt down to beg for mercy. Surrender if you don't want to die. I'll only give you 1 minute to decide. After 1 minute, those who don't surrender will all die. Song threatened. This time, the people from the God Lord's estate were completely flustered. The less courageous ones felt their legs go soft, and the hesitant ones surrendered under Song's intimidating gaze. Such a scene caused the Ascender Alliance to sigh endlessly. This was the difference in strength. Although the kitten had only shown a little bit of strength, it was enough to make people feel fear. Just like that, with Song's help, Lung Ruoxua took care of the people from the Divine Master's residence without even making a move. Although she had thought of making these people surrender, she felt that she had no sense of accomplishment if they really surrendered. This contradictory mood made her quite conflicted. "Girl, you don't need to do anything to those small fries. I'll give them to you when there's a big shark. Calm down, there'll be a chance." A big shark? After Lung Ruoxua heard this consolation, she was speechless. She couldn't help but wonder if the big shark that Song was referring to was the fog phoenix. The fish was a little big, and she couldn't catch it yet. In fact, other than Lung Ruoxua, who was feeling a little depressed, the Ascender Alliance's Alliance Master was also feeling depressed. This was because the Divine Master's estate's representative had originally been given to him by Lung Ruoxua, but it had been snatched away by Song. Moreover, Song had not even been there for a minute, and had directly knocked a certain representative unconscious. This was extremely embarrassing for a dignified supreme god like him. However, since things had come to this, he could only do this. After that, the Alliance Master quickly adjusted his state of mind, and kindly told Lung Ruoxua and Song that he would be preparing a grand celebration party later, and invited them to join. The man and the cat both smiled without saying a word. The Alliance Master thought that they had agreed. However, when they were ready to invite the person, the Ascender Alliance suddenly realized that the person had quietly slipped away. Before he left, he only left behind a letter, which read to the Alliance Master. After opening the letter, the Alliance Master's face was like a color palette, white, red, green, green, and black. His expression was changing unpredictably, and his expression was particularly conflicted. Li Jing and the other elders did not understand what was going on, but when they took the letter and read it, they were all at a loss. There was only one sentence written in the letter. "Please prepare the reward and send it to Demon City. The deadline is 1 month. If you are late, you will be charged a late payment fee." There were a few small categories such as the cost of alchemy and saving people. Although the Alliance Master and the rest did not understand what she meant by delayed payment of gold, they knew that it was definitely not something good. Hence, without further ado, the Ascender Alliance, from the Alliance Master to the Elders and Sub-Alliance Masters, all took action quickly to raise funds for Lung Ruoxua. It was a good thing that the Ascender Alliance was a big organization, and Lung Ruoxua did not ask for too much. Hence, the reward was prepared very quickly. The Alliance Master and Li Jing followed their original plan, and decided to head to the Land of Demons personally. A week later, the Alliance Master and Li Jing finally arrived at the Land of Demons. However, when they arrived at the Devil's Land, the two of them found out that Lung Ruoxua and the little kitten had not returned at all. This result stunned the two of them. Uncle Long and the others also asked in confusion, "Since the matter of the Ascender Alliance has been resolved, why didn't Schwer come back with you? She didn't say where she went?" She only left a letter and left without saying goodbye. The Alliance Master said the truth, but he couldn't help but think, your people, you ask me, but who should I ask? Damn it, where did this girl go? It's really worrying. When Master Ning heard that Shui Er's whereabouts were unknown, he immediately became angry. However, when the Alliance Master heard this, he couldn't help but mutter in his heart, worried? They shouldn't be worried about Lung Ruoxue, but the people she might cause trouble for, right? However, of course, he didn't dare to say this out loud. After all, he was in someone else's territory. How could he say bad things about his master? Furthermore, they were indebted to Lung Ruoxue. Therefore, when he heard Master Ning's words, he could only pretend to be invisible and refuse to express his opinion. The master of the Ning family only said that he was worried, but he was actually complaining in his heart. Because Shui didn't say anything to them, they were letting their thoughts run wild at home. That detestable girl. She had to teach her a lesson when she came back. Let her go missing for no reason. Why didn't you think of your godfather when there was something fun? What a heartless little girl. Master Ning was grumbling in his heart, but Lung Ruoxue, who was thousands of miles away, was sneezing nonstop. She knew that her family was nagging at her, but she had no choice. She had been completely kidnapped by Tsong. Chapter 2701. So what if you have more hands? 1. Where was she now? Lung Ruoxue's eyes went dark. She had no idea where she was at all. There were only mountains in front of her, and the sky was dark and chaotic. Moreover, if she remembered correctly, there was no such thing on the map. Song, what is this place? Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but ask as she looked at Song's calm and composed appearance. Song teleported with her for a few days before finally arriving here. However, it was as if nothing had happened here, constantly commanding her to wander around the mountains like a headless fly. Lung Ruoxue was a little confused about Song's intentions. This place. I'm not telling you yet. Song laughed evilly. He then saw Lung Ruoxue's depressed expression and couldn't help but laugh in his heart. Lung Ruoxue was indeed very depressed. This little thing was actually keeping her in suspense. Girl, I'm hungry, let's eat something first. Song said after laughing for a while. All right then. Lung Ruoxue was extremely helpless. She could only resign herself to her fate and take out some ingredients to prepare something to eat so that she could feed this little fellow that was driving her crazy. A moment later, Lung Ruoxue nimbly prepared some fragrant food. Song didn't say anything and started eating by Lung Ruoxue's feet. Seeing that Song's appetite was so good, Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but wonder if this little fellow was here for an outing. Just as Lung Ruoxue was thinking about this, she suddenly heard a rustling sound. Instantly, she raised her guard. Following that, a huge black shadow pounced towards the man and the beast. Lung Ruoxue immediately picked up Song and quickly dodged to an empty space at the side. When the huge black shadow saw that it had missed, it furiously pounced towards Lung Ruoxue and Song. It was only then that Lung Ruoxue could see the true face of the black shadow. It was a giant centipede that was at least 1,000 meters long. The centipede's entire body was as black as armor, and there was a light blue glow on it. Its broad body was as big as a small mountain. She had heard that centipedes had 100 or 1,000 legs, but from what Lung Ruoxue could see, this centipede probably had 10,000 legs. The centipede's head was even bigger than her body, especially the two millstone-like eyes on the centipede's head. They were eerie and terrifying. At this moment, they were exuding a frighteningly cold air. Just looking at them would make one feel fear. Its mouth was full of huge teeth, and they were making cracking sounds. As for this centipede's strength, it was roughly between the 8th and 9th rank. However, based on its size and its ferocity, it could definitely be compared to a true 9th rank sacred beast. As for Lung Ruoxue, she didn't dare to let her guard down when facing this disgusting centipede. After dodging the centipede's violent attacks twice, she had completely angered the centipede. Human. Cunning humans. I won't let you off. The centipede opened its mouth in anger. Lung Ruoxue was speechless. How was she cunning? He only dodged twice and didn't let the centipede catch him. How could this be considered cunning? Could it be that when she saw this centipede, she could only stand still and let it do whatever it wanted? That wasn't not cunning but stupid, right? She had to admit that she was very worried about the centipede's intelligence. Very well, I won't let you off either. After that, Lung Ruoxue replied, unwilling to be outdone. Even though she was not as big as her opponent's head, she would never admit defeat in terms of aura. Otherwise, the centipede would probably laugh at her even more. She was also a little curious about where this centipede came from. Yeah. Humans. You're so bold. The centipede was obviously mad with anger. It waved its countless legs and bared its fangs and claws in front of Lung Ruoxue. Thanks, Lung Ruoxue was very depressed as she thought. So what if you have more hands? Taking out Cold Shadow, Lung Ruoxue flicked her wrist and drew out several beautiful and dazzling sword rays in the air. Centipede blinked his eyes in confusion and asked, Human, what do you want to do? I'm going to cut off your feet, damn it. You think you're so great with more hands? Lung Ruoxue roared. As she was speaking, the centipede's claws were still moving nonstop, as if it was going to pounce on her. She was furious. After listening to her, the centipede didn't get angry at all. Instead, it nodded in agreement. It's quite amazing to have more hands. Lung Ruoxue was truly helpless. This centipede was a narcissistic fellow. Since that's the case, then don't blame her. She didn't have a good impression of centipedes anyway. Besides, the centipede wanted to kill her. Actions speak louder than words. While Lung Ruoxue was thinking this, the cold shadow in her hand had already sent a few cold glints towards the centipede's claws. With a bang, the sword glints struck a few of the centipede's huge legs, creating intense sparks. However, the cold shadow's sword glints only left a few faint white marks on the centipede's huge legs. Other than that, it did not cause much damage to the centipede. Lung Ruoxue was astonished. This centipede's shell was so hard. Centipede sneered. Puny human, you dare to be my enemy? You're really tired of living. Today, I'll let you taste the power of my 1,000 feet. As soon as it finished speaking, the centipede's huge and hard tail swept towards Lung Ruoxue. As Lung Ruoxue dodged, she could not help but remind him. Is this your foot? This is a tail, right? You bastard. Did the main body not recognize tails? I'll let you have a taste of my tail first before using it to its full extent, all right? The corrected centipede was very angry. Its black hard shell seemed to be shining with a faint fiery red. It was obvious that it was very angry. Yes, you can. However, I'm afraid that you won't have the chance to use it fully later. After Lung Ruoxue finished her sentence, she quickly infused her fire-type divine power into the cold shadow. In an instant, a few sharp sword gleams flew out again. The centipede was huge and had no time to dodge. It was extremely confident in its own strength, so it didn't think of dodging either. Therefore, it allowed the sword rays to hit its body and feet. But this time, it had completely miscalculated. The fiery red sword light hit its body and feet, and it was so painful that it wanted to roll on the ground. That heart-piercing pain almost took half of its life. How did this happen? Centipede couldn't believe his eyes. The other party's sword ray had also hit his body before, but nothing had happened to him, right? Why was it different this time? Not only was it different, but this time, the other party's sword radiance had also cut off a few of its giant legs. And the pain of the giant foot leaving its body was something it never wanted to experience again in its life. It was too painful. It was too painful. Woo. Tears welled up in the centipede's large eyes. What kind of trick did this woman use? How could he be so powerful? This woman who was holding a small pet was clearly weaker than it. Chapter 2702. So what if you have more hands, too? The centipede couldn't figure it out. Its heart was bleeding when it saw the giant foot lying on the ground. What are you doing? Then, the centipede saw the woman in front of it pick up the few giant legs that had left it. It could not help but ask carefully, why did it feel that something was going to fall on its head? I heard that the centipede is a medicinal ingredient, so of course I can't waste it. I'm going to keep your leg for alchemy. Lung Ruoxue answered the centipede's question with a smile. Her pair of beautiful eyes kept on sizing up the centipede's sturdy and hard black shell. At once, the centipede was infuriated by Lung Ruoxue's words and the way she was sizing it up. It immediately roared, "Human! How dare you? Do you know who I am?" "I know you're a centipede." Lung Ruoxue nodded. "Humph. Ignorant human. I'm telling you, I'm not just a centipede. I'm also the chief of the entire centipede race in the divine world. At the same time, I'm also a trusted aide of God Lord Fogripple. So if you're smart, you'd better leave behind my foot and quickly leave. Otherwise, you'll only die here." In a fit of rage, the centipede revealed its trump card. Initially, he thought that after it revealed his background, Lung Ruoxue would be so frightened that she would immediately run away. Who knew that not only did she not leave after hearing his words, she even appeared to be in deep thought. This made the centipede clan leader extremely puzzled. As expected of Wu Cheng's subordinate, I cut off a few of his legs, but not only did he not want to take revenge, he even wanted to let me go. Lung Ruoxue laughed indifferently. In other words, she was saying, "Little centipede, you're so cowardly." It's good that you know. As subordinates of God Lord Mist Ripple, how could we stoop to the level of puny humans? So this lord will be magnanimous and not haggle with you. If you know what's good for you, then quickly leave. Don't force me to do it. The centipede clan leader did not catch the hidden meaning behind Lung Ruoxue's words. Instead, he spoke with pride. It was honored to be a subordinate of God Lord Mist Ripple. But in reality, it had thought of taking revenge after Lung Ruoxue had chopped off a few of its legs. It was just that it had some instinctive fear of Lung Ruoxue's fire attribute divine power. Thus, it would rather suffer a little than to be entangled with this human. However, how could Lung Ruoxue be dismissed so easily? Especially after hearing that the other party was a trusted aide of Ripple. She would not leave so easily. People from Rime Ice. How could he let her go? After some thought, Lung Ruoxue continued to smile. "If you want me to leave, I'll leave. Just take the initiative and offer me your body. Oh, this shell of yours should be pretty good for forging. Despicable human. How dare you try to steal my outer shell? You must be tired of living." After the centipede heard this, it was furious again. It really felt that the woman in front of it really didn't know what was good for her. It didn't even want to argue with her, but why was she still so insensible? Little did it know that Lung Ruoxue had only made up her mind to pester it endlessly after hearing it call itself a subordinate of the Ripple Mist. Therefore, the moment it revealed its identity, its fate was already decided. "You'll know if I'm tired of living after you try. Come on. Let's continue, Chief Centipede." Lung Ruoxue beckoned at the centipede, whose body was on fire from anger. Then, she flashed out the cold shadow in her hand, signaling for the other party to quickly make a move. However, the centipede clan leader did not act rashly. He looked at the calm Lung Ruoxue, then glanced at the sword in her hand that was emitting a cold aura. Suddenly, he turned around and retreated decisively. As he left, the centipede clan leader thought to himself, "I don't want to waste my time with this lunatic." It was such a waste of time. Lung Ruoxue was dumbfounded when she saw this. Thanks while she was still in a daze, the swift centipede clan leader had already disappeared into the gray fog, without a trace. Lung Ruoxue was extremely depressed. What a mistake. She had never expected that the giant centipede would escape. What should he do now? The other party was Wu Yan's subordinate, and he was really unwilling to let her go just like that. Wait a minute. Why would Wu Yan's subordinates be here? Could it be that it also knew that he was somewhat unsightly, so it hid here? As such, it seemed that she could not let the centipede go. With such a powerful beastie, it would definitely be a big problem to keep it. "Song, we have to find that centipede and destroy it." After thinking for a while, Lung Ruoxue spoke to Tsang Dao very seriously. "And that guy's entire body is a treasure. Not only can it be used to refine pills, it can also be used to refine weapons. It's indeed a rare material." Azure nodded in agreement. Lung Ruoxue was speechless. That was not what she meant. She just wanted to weaken the fog, but she couldn't deny that Sung's words were true. That centipede was a treasure. Song, let's go find that centipede. Lung Ruoxue couldn't be bothered to argue with Song and directly said, Girl, don't be anxious. Wait for another 2 or 3 days, and we'll meet it again. Song had a look of confidence as he said mysteriously, What? Lung Ruoxue was puzzled. What did this mean? Aren't you curious as to why that centipede is here? Azure asked with a faint smile. Why? Lung Ruoxue was very cooperative. Since Song had said so, it shouldn't be the childish reason she thought of before. There's a precious herb here, and that centipede was ordered to guard it. Originally, this centipede was the guardian beast of that medicinal herb, but it was later subdued by that bitch, Wuhan, so it became Wuhan's slave. This time, Azure didn't keep him in suspense and explained. Lung Ruoxue's interest was piqued the moment she heard the word precious. She asked, Is that medicinal herb the reason you brought me here? Yes, that medicinal herb is very important to the rime ice. Therefore we must get it. Azure clenched his furry little fist and said fiercely, In that case, should we call Uncle Long and the others over? There's strength in numbers. Lung Ruoxue suggested. However, Azure shook his head. There's no need to call them over. The 2 of us are enough. Are you sure? What if Wuxia comes here? Lung Ruoxue asked worriedly. Even though the fog ripple had been injured, she didn't know how much better the woman's injuries had gotten. She didn't dare to let her guard down. I'll deal with her when she comes, but I don't think she'll come here. This place is considered one of her secret bases. It's not even marked on the map of the Divine Realm, so she definitely won't expect us to come here. More importantly, the guards here are all idiots who rarely move around in the Divine Realm. They have never seen us before, so they naturally don't know about the enmity between us and Fog Ice. So don't worry. We'll definitely be able to get those herbs. Azure was full of confidence. This was also the reason why it didn't allow Lung Ruoxue to call Uncle Long and the others over. In the land of evil demons, there were countless pairs of eyes watching them. If the spies of Fog Ice discovered the actions of Uncle Long and the others, it would definitely alarm Fog Ice, and it would make it difficult for them to snatch that medicinal herb. Chapter 2703. So what if you have more hands, 3? But we've already been discovered by the centipede. Is that okay? Lung Ruoxue was still a little worried. That centipede is an idiot. It was so scared by you that it hid in the hole. Before the herb ripened, it would definitely not dare to leave, so don't worry. It doesn't have the intention to tattle. We just need to stay here in peace. It won't think that our goal is that medicinal herb. At most, they'll think that we've mistakenly entered this nameless mountain. Song laughed evilly. Before coming, he already knew the situation here like the back of his hand. However, he deliberately maintained a sense of mystery and didn't tell Nyo anything. Now that he thought about it, his decision was indeed right. When it saw Nyo's blank face, its mood was particularly good. Fortunately, Lung Ruoxue wasn't aware of its little evil interest. Otherwise, she would have vomited blood from depression. Hearing Song's words, Lung Ruoxue could only let go of her worries and stay where she was. However, she was still very curious about the medicinal herb, and finally couldn't help but ask. Song, what is the herb that you said is very important to the rime ice? What's the use of it? That herb is called the blood lotus flower. There is only one of it in the world. At that time, the seed of the blood lotus flower was also contaminated with a trace of chaos chi. It can be considered a plant born from chaos and has some relatives with the fog. So, after the fog found it and subdued the centipede, the fog has ordered the centipede to guard it for tens of thousands of years. The moment the blood lotus flower matures, the fog will absorb the essence of the blood lotus flower. At that time, the cultivation of the fog will definitely take a big step forward. She might even become the true master of the divine realm. At that time, it would be even more difficult for us to deal with her. But fortunately, she was injured by the demonic man before, so even if she has absorbed the essence of the blood lotus flower, she can't completely use up her strength. However, with the essence of the blood lotus flower that has been around for tens of thousands of years, it will be easy for her to heal Wu Lian's injuries. So no matter what, we can't let the blood lotus flower fall into the hands of Wu Lian. Azure said very seriously. After Lung Ruoxua heard these words, she nodded. She had never seen Song show such a serious expression, so she naturally paid more attention to it. But she still had some questions. Azure, how did you discover the existence of the blood lotus flower? Lung Ruoxua was very curious. I've known about it for a long time and have been paying attention to it. However, the blood lotus flower grows extremely slowly. It's been tens of thousands of years. Any other natural treasure would have been able to take form long ago. But that little flower hasn't developed any spiritual consciousness yet. It still recognizes me, Azure said with a bitter expression. It's been a long time indeed. In that case, you've been eyeing the blood lotus flower for a long time. Lung Ruoxua listened to Tsong's complaints and couldn't help but let her imagination run wild. Between this beast and flower, there was clearly, "Girl, how can you say that? We can't let it fall into the hands of fog. I hate that woman. My greatest pleasure is to make trouble for her and make things difficult for her. So we must get the blood lotus." Azure reminded him seriously. Yes, just because that flower is what Wu Emma wants, I can't give it to her. However, what kind of flower was the blood lotus flower? And what does it have to do with Shui Lian? Lung Ruoxua could not help but ask. It doesn't matter. They just look a little similar. However, snow lotuses are basically white, while blood lotus flowers are as red as blood. They are very bright. Song explained. Lung Ruoxua nodded her head, understanding the situation. So the flower will mature in 2 or 3 days, she continued. Yup. After it matures, it will be able to develop intelligence. I'm really looking forward to what it will be like. Azure said happily. Looking at its appearance, Lung Ruoxua was even more certain that there was something going on between Song and that flower. Afraid that Song would find out, Lung Ruoxua quickly put away her improper thoughts and smiled. Congratulations, you finally have the chance to meet. Girl, you'll see it too. Azure reminded. Yes. Lung Ruoxua nodded, but she couldn't help but think to herself, I'm not looking forward to it as much as you. I just don't want that flower to be obtained by Wu Xiao. Just like that, the two of them began to wait patiently. However, on the second day, the blood lotus flower that Song had been waiting for did not mature. On the third day, from the morning, Lung Ruoxua could clearly feel the increase in the spiritual energy in the mountain. Furthermore, there was an uncountable amount of spiritual energy swarming towards their location. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxua and Song knew that this was a sign that the blood lotus flower was maturing. Without waiting for Lung Ruoxua to open her mouth, Song teleported Lung Ruoxua to a dark cave. The cave was so dark that he couldn't even see his fingers. Lung Ruoxua wanted to light up a small flame, but was stopped by Song. Girl, don't light a fire, Song Huan transmitted. You'll scare the blood lotus flower. That little fellow is very timid. Hearing Song's words, Lung Ruoxua could only give up and silently endure the darkness in front of her. Actually, she really didn't like such a dark place, especially when there were a few other slightly unfamiliar auras besides them here. This made Lung Ruoxua even more disgusted. Needless to say, those unfamiliar auras must have been sent by the mist to guard the blood lotus flower. Thanks. Just as Lung Ruoxua was feeling depressed that she did not know when the blood lotus flower would truly mature, suddenly, a small spot of light lit up not too far away from her. It was like a firefly emitting a faint light. Slowly the light expanded bit by bit. However, the speed at which the light expanded was really too slow. By the time the light was the size of a baby's fist, an hour had passed. However, the spiritual energy in the cave had obviously increased. Lung Ruoxia's sharp senses could also sense that the violent spiritual energy was swarming towards the light from all directions. The few auras in the cave all held their breaths, not daring to disturb the blood lotus flower's maturity. After an unknown period of time, the spirit chi that had almost turned into liquid finally stopped being violent and slowly stabilized. The fresh air in the cave also made Lung Ruoxua feel much more comfortable. In an instant, the pitch-black cave suddenly became as bright as day. Lung Ruoxue could finally see the true appearance of the blood lotus flower in Song's mouth. It was a red flower the size of an adult's palm. It was indeed very similar to a snow lotus. Its color was very bright, and the bright red petals were like drops of blood. They were crystal clear and beautiful. A faint layer of flowing light covered the petals, making the blood lotus flower appear even more noble. The tiny flower was like a king that no one dared to look at directly. However, at the same time that she saw the blood lotus flower, Lung Ruoxue also saw the three ugly beastie in front of them. In addition to the huge centipede, there was also a spider that was as tall as a building, and a giant black ant with a golden crown on its head. Needless to say, these three guys were definitely chiefs, kings, or something of the sort. Seeing them, Lung Ruoxue wanted to curse, but her good upbringing forced her to hold it in. She looked at the three ugly creatures in front of her with a face full of vigilance. In an instant, 4 figures flew towards the blood lotus flower. One of the white figures, which was as fast as lightning, was naturally azure, while the other 3 were the 3 ugly beasts. When Lung Ruoxue saw this, she was prepared to lend Song a hand to block the 3 beasts. Who knew that before she could even make a move, the heart of the tiny blood lotus spat out a red mist. Almost instantly, the 3 ugly beasts took a big step back at the same time. Song took the opportunity to keep the blood lotus in his arms. Looking at Song's careful manner, as if he was holding a rare treasure, Lung Ruoxue was even more certain that there was an extraordinary friendship between them. However, this was obviously not the time for gossip. There were still 3 very ugly beastie eyeing them covetously. However, what surprised Lung Ruoxue was that after the blood lotus flower was obtained by Tsong, not only did the 3 ugly beasts not immediately rush forward to snatch it, they even looked as if they had suffered a huge blow. Especially the centipede clan leader. His face had completely crumbled and tears were rolling down his face. Following that, he heard the centipede clan leader choked with sobs. "Little blood, how can you treat me like this? I've been protecting you for tens of thousands of years." As soon as he said this, the other 2 also burst into tears, as if they had been wronged, and joined in. "Little blood, you don't want us anymore? In what way can we not compare to that damn cat?" After saying that, the other 2 were still burning with jealousy and glared at Song fiercely. Upon hearing this, Lung Ruoxue looked at the complicated relationship in front of her. She could not help but imagine, could this be the so-called "my lover is married, but am not the groom"? No, it should be the lover that he had protected for tens of thousands of years, but the moment he woke up one day, he fell in love with someone else. It was obvious that the guardian would be very sad. As for Tsong, who was on the other side, he was obviously domineering. He fought 1 against 3, using his small body to fight against 3 huge monsters. Lung Ruoxue's mind was filled with wild thoughts. Just then, she heard an extremely childish voice ring out by her ear. "So what if you have protected me for tens of thousands of years? You still want me to die, don't you?" The childish voice sounded very angry. "You guys can't compare to Azure in any way." He added, "Look at how smart this little guy is." Although it had just gained sentience, it was clear that these 3 ugly fellows were not as good as Tsong, who was obviously more interested in it. Lung Ruoxue supported the idea of the tiny blood lotus flower, and he quickly expressed it with his actions. She clapped. "Little guy, you've made a wise choice. These 3 monsters didn't have good intentions. They were monsters who specialized in deceiving children. Fortunately, you didn't fall for it." Lung Ruoxue praised as she wished for the world to be in chaos. "Thank you, but am not a little guy. You are." The blood lotus flower corrected Lung Ruoxue's words in a serious manner. Hearing this, Lung Ruoxue felt depressed for a moment. Alright. She understood what the other party meant. She quickly decided not to argue with a plant that had lived for tens of thousands of years, because she would lose miserably. Chapter 2704. Don't Stop Me 1. Lung Ruoxue was smart enough to maintain her silence. However, the other 3 ugly fellows were unwilling to be left out. They were unwilling to be ignored. More importantly, the blood lotus flower's words had caused them to be heartbroken. The giant centipede had a look of betrayal on its face as it said, "Little blood, How can you say that we are sending you to your death? We're all doing this for your own good. You're sending me to my death for my own good? Little Blood said angrily. Its tender voice was so angry that it was a little sharp. This can't be considered suicide, right? It's just to maximize your role as a plant. And think about it, if you can become a part of the Master God, how great of an honor would that be for you? The giant centipede tried to persuade the angry red flower. However, the flower became angrier and angrier when it heard this. It was so angry that it was trembling. Then, everyone heard a red flower that had just gained sentience curse. Bullshit. Who would want to be a part of that bitch? Whose grandfather had said that sending one to death was the greatest use of plants. Then why don't you just go and die? Fuck. Why don't you just go and die? Not only can your body be used to refine pills, but it can also be used to refine weapons, so it's much more useful than me. Why don't you take the initiative to offer yourself and let others kill you? The blood lotus flower was furious, and the consequences were severe. Moreover, with its anger, the red mist that spurted out from the center of the flower became even more intense. The three beastie, led by the centipede, hurriedly took a few large steps back in fear. Azure held the blood lotus flower with an indifferent expression and looked at the three with a faint smile. Lung Ruaksha's face was filled with black lines. She couldn't understand how a little guy who had just gained sentience could learn to curse. Could it be self-taught? The possibility of this should be very low, right? Moreover, that person didn't admit that she was the little guy's flower, and even called Wuxia a bitch. This was most likely the Tsang sect. It had to be said that Lung Ruaxua was right. These words were really from the Azure sect. Although Azure rarely appeared by the blood lotus flower's side, he could still communicate with Little Flower spiritually. Over time, the pure blood lotus was instilled by Tsang into the fog that it was a bad guy. It was a slut. It was the idea of Grandmother Wolf, who wanted to eat it, and it was deeply ingrained in the blood lotus flower's heart. As for the three beasts who had been ordered to protect the blood lotus flower, Azure had also spoken ill of them. Because of this, even if Azure didn't appear often, Flowery didn't really care about those three. Moreover, it did not have any intelligence, so even if they wanted to communicate, there was no way. The three beasts definitely did not have Azure's ability to communicate with the blood lotus flower that had no intelligence. As such, the three of them were naturally in a tragedy. Xiaohua only treated them as servants. At least with someone to protect them, it didn't have to worry too much about its safety. More importantly, it was very clear that as long as it was not mature, the Ripple Witch would not be willing to eat it. That was why it had been living a carefree life for the past tens of thousands of years. Now that it had matured, it meant that danger was coming. It was time for the two sides to fall out. Now that it had the protection of the thick-skinned Azure, it naturally didn't need to fear these three guys. It had to be said that Azure's upbringing had been very successful, and the blood lotus flower was very dependent on it. The closeness between the beast and the flower had greatly provoked the three ugly beasts, who were burning with jealousy. Seeing how the other party treated Tsang as a love rival, Lung Ruaxua was both amused and speechless. However, she knew that the little flower was not to be trifled with. The red mist that came out of the flower's pistil was poisonous. Although she didn't know what would happen if she came into contact with it, but looking at the three of them fearful expressions, the poison was probably not light. Lung Ruaxua was secretly making guesses at the side. The three beastie, who had lost their rationality and flown into a rage out of humiliation, were conversing privately through voice transmission. They would even cast their gazes towards Lung Ruaxua from time to time, causing her to be baffled. Why were the three of them looking at it? Just as Lung Ruaxua was feeling puzzled, she heard Qingju's chuckling in her heart. She could not help but wipe the sweat off her forehead. Before she could ask, Qingju's voice was heard. "Thanks, big sister, they're trying to get their hands on you." What? Lung Ruaxua didn't understand. Even though they were enemies, shouldn't they be dealing with their love rival now? Why did he have any ideas about her? However, before Lung Ruaxua could ask, she saw three huge black shadows pouncing towards her from the corner of her eye. She dodged nimbly and jumped to a safe place at the side, causing the three to miss. The three beasties' anger burned even more when they saw that they had failed. The Centipede clan leader was so furious that he spat out a black poison at Lung Ruoxua. At the same time, the giant spider spat out countless light yellow, web-like threads from its mouth, which were scattered towards Lung Ruoxua. The big black ant waved its two huge pincers and pounced towards Lung Ruoxua once again. The attacks that these three beasts used were all their most powerful attacks. They had made up their minds to teach Lung Ruoxua a lesson, so all three of them were going all out. When Lung Ruoxua saw this, she was so angry that she wanted to curse the heavens. Damn it! This was bullying. She wasn't the one snatching his love away, so why was he trying to force himself on her? If you have the ability, go find a group of people and beat them up. This bunch of bastards who bully the weak and fear the strong. Lung Ruoxua was enraged. She immediately threw out a small flame. The small flame split into three in the air, and flew towards the three beasts from different directions. As soon as the Centipede clan leader saw the flame, he was instinctively afraid and slowed down his pace. However, the other two did not know the truth. They continued to shoot out their pincers. The one that was waving its pincers increased its strength, determined to take Lung Ruoxua down. According to their thoughts, the woman in front of them was the owner of that hateful cat. As long as they killed this woman, that cat would not be a threat. He would deal with the cat after he killed this woman. It had to be said that Beastie also knew how to capture the king before capturing the bandits. Unfortunately, the weak woman in their eyes was not what she looked like. Therefore, the three Beastie who had this thought were destined to miscalculate. The first to suffer were the two spiders and ants who did not know the truth and thought that Lung Ruoxua was easy to bully. Just as they were about to continue attacking Lung Ruoxua, the small flame Lung Ruoxua had released landed lightly on their backs. Without giving them any chance to react, the small flame turned into a huge fire with a swoosh. The raging flames rose to a height of 3 feet, and directly surrounded the two gigantic beasts. At the same time, a painful wail came from the fire. The wail grew louder, then gradually faded away, and finally disappeared little by little. Seeing this, the Centipede clan leader was so scared that his legs went weak. He wanted to run, but he could only look at Lung Ruoxua with a trembling face. His body, which was thousands of meters long, was so scared that he was paralyzed. It was completely dumbfounded. How did this happen? How did this happen? Chapter 2705. Don't Stop Me Too. What kind of flame was that? How could it be so powerful? Its two little companions didn't even resist, and they went silent. Was he dead? The Centipede clan leader didn't dare to think any further, but its huge body that was trembling violently revealed the boundless fear in its heart. It had long known that the flame was not simple, but it did not expect it to be more powerful than it had imagined. At the thought of this, it suddenly realized that the woman had not killed it because she had been merciful. Whoa! How did this happen? The Centipede clan leader asked himself for the umpteenth time. That woman clearly looked so weak, so how could she have such a powerful flame? This didn't make sense. The Centipede clan leader really wanted to roar into the sky. But at this time, what it regretted even more was that it had treated this woman as a soft persimmon. Now not only was the persimmon not soft, it might even eat it. As the fear in her heart grew, Lung Ruoxua was no longer a weak woman in the eyes of the Centipede clan leader. She was a demon. That's right. Brutal demon. It was an extremely terrifying demon that was not even as big as its head. It really wanted to ask, "Great demon, can you let me go?" Sob. It deeply regretted provoking Lung Ruoxua. Just as the Centipede clan leader was filled with worry and trying to think of a way, the 30-foot-tall flame not far away gradually extinguished. The flames on the giant spider and ant turned into two small flames and fused with another flame. Then, the small flame slowly floated beside the Centipede clan leader, but it did not continue to attack. But even so, it was enough to scare the Centipede clan leader out of his wits. With a casual glance, it discovered that its two little companions were no longer breathing, leaving only two stiff bodies, reminding them that they had once existed, and also reminding the Centipede clan leader that everything he saw was not a dream. Let me go. Woo! After hesitating for a long time, The Centipede tribe leader finally gave in under the threat of the little flame beside him. I won tea. Lung Ruoxue spat out these two words indifferently. Then she intentionally said in a dissatisfied tone. Didn't you just say that the blood lotus flower's sacrifice would be worth it? Now, I also want your sacrifice to be worth it. You see, I've kept the bodies of your two little friends. I'm going to use them to refine weapons. In comparison, your body is more useful. Since you can refine pills and weapons, I've kept them alive. With such an explanation, the Centipede clan leader finally understood why Lung Ruoxue did not kill him. Oh, so it's because the living ingredients are fresher. The Centipede clan leader was very regretful, so regretful that his intestines were turning green. But was there any use in regretting now? It was a little confused. After a long silence, the Centipede tribe leader finally turned his gaze to the blood lotus flower and sobbed. Little blood, are you going to watch me get killed by humans? The earlier you die, the earlier you reincarnate. I will pray for you. The blood lotus flower said without even thinking. Thanks. Hearing this, Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but burst out laughing. This little flower was quite cute. His words were also sharp. Furthermore, to the Centipede clan leader's ears, how sad would those words be? Sure enough, when the Centipede clan leader heard this, tears streamed down his face. At first he cried silently, but in the end he simply burst into tears. As he cried, he complained, Little flower, you are too heartless. I have protected you for tens of thousands of years. Now that you have a new love, it's fine if you don't want me anymore. How can you let the owner of your new love kill me? Woo! How could you hurt my fragile heart like this? I'm so sad. I don't want to live anymore. Woo, don't stop me. As he cried and cried, the Centipede clan leader wanted to use his head to bang against the mountain wall. However, before he did so, he intentionally looked at Lung Ruoxue. In the end, his gaze stopped on the little red flower for a very long time before he turned back reluctantly. Don't stop me. I'm going to commit suicide. When Lung Ruoxue, Song and the Blood Lotus saw this, they didn't speak. Other than the sound of sobbing, the entire place was silent. However, at this moment, all three of their attention was focused on the Centipede clan leader. As the Centipede clan leader's head got closer to the mountain wall, it should have hit the wall with a bang. However, the three of them waited for a moment, and no one heard the sound of the wall hitting. The Centipede clan leader turned his head again and roared with grief and anger. You guys are too much. There's no humanity at all. You saw that I was about to commit suicide, but you didn't stop me. Woo, bad guy. You're all bad guys. Didn't you tell us not to stop them? Lung Ruoxue's forehead was filled with black lines as she said this in a speechless manner. In fact, what she wanted to say was that she was fine with both the living and dead centipedes, so she didn't want to stop them. Moreover, they weren't friends, so what was there to stop? In any case, the centipede would end up dead in the end. If he committed suicide, he might be able to escape earlier. Thus, Lung Ruoxue was very supportive of its wise choice. That's right. You already told us not to stop you. If we really do stop you, won't we just ruin your plans? Azure also laughed evilly. I said I'm not allowed to stop you, and you really don't care if I'm dead or alive. Do you have to be so inhumane? The centipede fire roared. Little centipede, can you please recognize our relationship? Don't be so stupid. You're on our side. What does your life or death have to do with us? Why do we have to be kind to you? Azure reminded him. If it wasn't for the fact that Beastie was confused, it wouldn't have said such nonsense to the other party. Fortunately, after listening to Lung Ruoxue and Song's words, the Centipede clan leader finally regained some of his rationality, and wasn't as stupid as before. Ooh, you, what do you want? Little blood has already been taken by you guys. I have nothing left, and you guys still won't let me go? After a long time, the Centipede clan leader finally woke up completely and asked, You're Wu Cheng's subordinate. It's impossible for us to let you go. Song replied with a smile after hearing the words of the Centipede clan leader. Do you know that you're going against God Lord Fogripple? You guys stole her things, she won't let you guys go. Aren't you afraid? The Centipede clan leader asked in confusion. It didn't know where this man and beast had gotten the courage to steal food from God Lord Mist Ripple's mouth. This was simply courting death. Even if we don't snatch that slut's things, she won't let us off. We're natural enemies, and we're destined to kill each other. So it doesn't make much of a difference to us whether we snatch her things or not. Do you understand now? Azure said with a smile. Understood. The centipede race chief wanted to cry, but no tears came out. So these two fellows had a grudge against God Lord Mist Ripple to begin with. Then it could be considered to have run into the hands of the enemy. No wonder it was unwilling to let it go. After understanding this, the centipede clan leader felt that he could only wait for death. However, it still couldn't help but ask, "Can you give me a quick death? Don't let me die too painfully." Chapter 2706. Don't Stop Me. 3. It depends on the situation. Lung Ruashua replied calmly. The moment the centipede clan leader heard this answer, he felt extremely unsettled. What was the meaning of this? Can you not torture me like this? Give him a quick one. Unfortunately, Lung Ruashua did not know what the centipede clan leader was thinking, and Qingju did not tell her either. However, she could more or less sense the centipede clan leader's gloominess. She chuckled evilly and continued to ask, "Since you're the leader of the centipede clan, where are your clansmen? Call him out for me to see." Lung Ruashua didn't want to leave any hidden dangers behind. Since she had captured the centipede clan leader, she naturally had to deal with his clansmen to avoid any trouble. "I don't have any clansmen. I'm the only one in my clan." The centipede clan leader replied honestly. When Lung Ruashua heard this, she was conflicted. "You're alone, and you still have the nerve to call yourself the clan leader? You're clearly a commander with a pole. What about them? Where are the clansmen?" Lung Ruashua did not give up. She pointed at the dead spiders and ants. "They don't have it either," the centipede clan leader said, a little embarrassed. Lung Ruashua did not know what to say. Seeing Lung Ruaksha's distrustful gaze, the centipede clan leader was so scared that his heart was trembling. He quickly explained, "It's like this. The lifespans of insect-type beasts from the deity world are extremely short. Not only are we weak, but we also have many natural enemies. Therefore, it's extremely difficult for us to survive in the deity world. Tens of thousands of years have passed, and our clansmen have either died or been killed. Now there are only 3 of us left in our branch. Sob. We're very miserable." As he spoke, the centipede clan leader wanted to play the emotional card again. However, Lung Ruashua was completely unmoved. She only subconsciously glanced at Song. Seeing Song nod, Lung Ruashua then stopped doubting the centipede clan leader's words. Then, she took out a rope and tied up the centipede tribe leader, who was tactful and did not struggle firmly. She then threw him into the house with the other 2 behemoths. After she was done, Lung Ruashua smiled at Song and said, "Song, can we leave this time?" "Yes. However, there are still some collections of the 3 beastie in this mountain. We have to steal them." Azure smiled evilly. "I know the place." The blood lotus hurriedly said upon hearing this. When Lung Ruashua heard this, she felt a little sympathy for the centipede clan leader's 3 beasties. They were protecting a little flower who was a traitor. However, this was good. It was very much to her liking. Following that, under Xiaohua's guidance, the centipede clan leader and the other 2 beasts' collection became Lung Ruashua's. The 3 beasts had collected a lot of good things over the years, including countless high-quality medicinal herbs. However, according to the blood lotus flower's complaint, these medicinal herbs were collected by the 3 of them to give to the Mist Ripple bitch. When Lung Ruashua heard this, she felt even more at ease. It would be a waste not to take Fog's things. After tidying up the treasures of the 3 beastie, Lung Ruashua was prepared to let Song bring her home. Who knew that Song would wave his hand and ask her to wait? Then, she heard Song raise his voice and roar at the sky. "Wavering bitch. I sold your petals for 1 jingshi each, and the blood lotus flower that you've been coveting now belongs to me. Ha ha ha." This arrogant laughter, accompanied by the pressured Song Yen released, spread throughout the entire divine realm. Upon hearing this, Lung Ruoxue broke out in cold sweat. Why didn't he run away after doing something bad? Why did he announce it to the world? However, in the entire immortal realm, only Azure would dare to do this. He just didn't know if Fog would be so angry that she would vomit blood after hearing these provocative words. Lung Ruoxue was suddenly filled with anticipation. The facts proved that she had guessed correctly. At this moment, although Wu Xiao had been healing in seclusion, Song's voice was too powerful. The barrier she had set up could not block it at all. Therefore, when the voice entered her ears, she, who was healing, spat out a mouthful of dark red blood and fainted from anger. By the time she woke up and teleported to the mountain where the blood lotus flower grew, the mountain was already empty. The extremely furious Wu Xian was so angry that she directly used her divine power to bombard the innocent mountain. In the end, she fainted beside the broken mountain rocks. The frightened subordinates then hurriedly carried her back to the Divine Master's estate. At the same time, in the Lung family's residence in the land of demons, there was a long silence because of the provocative words that came from the sky not long ago. At that time, Uncle Long and the others were chatting in the living room. The people present at that time included the Ascender Alliance's chief and Li Jing. As they did not see Lung Ruoxue, they did not leave. However, just as everyone was having a good time chatting, the sudden voice gave them a big shock. Thanks in comparison, Uncle Long and the others were still calm. Although they were breaking out in cold sweat, the Ascender Alliance's master and Li Jing had already turned pale and ashen, because the petals of rime ice were bought by the two of them. If this matter was known by Wu Yan, she would probably come to settle the score with them. After an unknown period of time, the Alliance Master's question finally came from the silent living room. That voice just now, was it Miss Lung's little white cat? Yes, I am. Uncle Long looked at the Alliance Master sympathetically. He had heard from the Alliance Master that Song had sold 2 petals to him, and Li Jingkai to save them. When he thought of this, he immediately consoled her. Don't worry, no one will know that you bought the petals of the Mist Ripple bitch. Can you not call her a bitch in front of them? The Alliance Master couldn't help but feel disgusted. He really couldn't take it anymore. Although he didn't have a good impression of Wu Chun, this illegitimate master god, at least on the surface, he would still respect her. But now these guys in front of him had to add the word bitch when they talked about Wu Chun, which made him quite uneasy. However, he also knew that the other party would not care about his thoughts. Therefore, he only thought about it in his heart, and did not intend to say out such a request that would obviously annoy the other party. After some thought, he couldn't help but ask, "Who is that little white cat? Got so gutsy." When he said this, he couldn't help but wipe off his cold sweat. He couldn't deny that he was really a little frightened. Do you know Tsang? That little white cat is Tsang. Uncle Long didn't intend to hide it and told the truth. Tsang? Are you talking about the god-protecting pagoda, Ling Tsang? The Alliance Master's eyes suddenly widened as he spoke in disbelief. Anyone who had lived in the divine realm for a long time would know of Tsang's great name. However, he had never thought that the little white cat would be Tsang. Uncle Long nodded and didn't say much. On the other hand, the Alliance Master was still in shock. His mouth was half open, and after a long time he finally said, "Wasn't it said that Azure doesn't have a master? Then what is its relationship with Miss Lung? Tsang has acknowledged little Schwerer as his master. Why? Haven't you heard?" Uncle Long pretended to be surprised, then put on a look of realization. "It's not strange that you didn't hear about it. How could the ripple which let such an important piece of news spread? And our Schwerer keeps a low profile. She's never willing to show off about these things." Hearing Uncle Long's words, the Alliance Master didn't know what to feel. In fact, he really wanted to ask, "Sir, aren't you showing off by saying this?" However, he knew that he must not offend his master in her territory. At the same time, he felt that he should reconsider Lung Ruoxue's position. From the looks of it, if the Ascender Alliance wanted to befriend Lung Ruoxue, they were obviously trying to climb up the social ladder. However, he was not willing to make the Ascender Alliance think that they were beneath Lung Ruoxue. After all, he was an extremely proud person. This fact made him feel rather conflicted. He didn't even know what to do. However, he was even more unwilling to give up the chance to befriend Lung Ruoxue. The Alliance Master fell silent again. Uncle Long and the others also knew that the General Lord had suffered too much today, so they ended their conversation considerately and arranged for the General Lord and Li Jing to rest. Without outsiders, Uncle Long and the others were able to chat more freely. Ai. He didn't know where Shuer had been taken by Tsang. There's no news either. Uncle Long said with a bitter expression. Who said it wasn't he? That detestable girl. Isn't she afraid that we'll be worried? At the mention of this, the master of the Ning family gritted his teeth in hatred, but he couldn't contact Shuer, so he couldn't do anything. However, he was very clear that the reason he couldn't contact Shuer was definitely Tsang's doing. Because other than him, no one else had such great ability. It can't be considered as no news. Didn't Azure mention the blood lotus flower before? Dongfeng Yu couldn't help but interject when he heard the two old men's complaints. But then he received angry glares from Uncle Long and Master Ning. And then he heard the two angry, handsome old men shout in unison. Do you know where the blood lotus flower is? Hearing this, Dongfeng Yu could only keep his mouth shut. Sob. I can't afford to offend a jealous old man. Seeing that Dongfeng Yu was being honest, Uncle Long felt that it was not interesting, so he left the living room in a huff. After he took the lead and left, the people present also left one by one. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue had no idea that her family was in a small argument because of her whereabouts. Song, where are we going? Aren't you going home? Seeing Song bring her to a foreign city, Lung Ruoxue was lost. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.